We would like to begin this episode by thanking some people, people like Benjamin Roman, Brett Davis, and Horseshoe Joe.
All this way up from the horseshoes, eh?
All of these are people who have backed us at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You can be like them, throw us a few bucks a month and get lots of extra content and maybe even be thanked if you're back at the right tier. All of that's at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we're talking about Pentiment, which is an adventure game developed by Obsidian Entertainment and published by Microsoft for the PC and Xbox consoles in 2022. It's episode 400, Gary.
Yeah, the big 400.
I have no other feeling other than big number good.
Yeah, what else lasted 400 years or 400 episodes? America, probably. Maybe.
Maybe.
We might get there.
We might.
I mean, it won't be recognizable.
Nope.
Boy, that sounded like I was going to go into a Dennis Miller rant or something, and I was trying to think of it as the opposite.
It sounded like when somebody says goodbye by saying, "Hey, watch the news later."
Yeah. Like I'm going to go Death by Misadventure. Check it out. Yeah, 400 episodes. Thanks, everybody. And for listening for this long, especially people who've been there from the beginning. That is awesome. We know there are people who have literally been here for like the 10 years.
Yeah.
As long as we have, that's nuts.
We love it.
And we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And a special game for our 400th episode. This episode executive produced by Julia, our friend Julia. Thank you very much, Julia. Something that was on my radar and I wanted to play anyway. Really glad I got kind of kicked in the pants to do it.
Yeah. This rules.
Yeah, it's really
love
good.
This.
I have a couple of minor nitpicks because, of course, I do because I'm me. But it's really good. I had that arc that is really valuable where you're really not sure of something and then it wins you over. That can feel really good.
Yeah.
That's a really satisfying arc. There's a reason why that's every romantic comedy. You know? This was, we had a meet cute and it didn't go well, and then all of a sudden now we're married.
A couple of monks died. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck them. So in this game, you play as a character named ANDREAS Mailer, who is a journeyman artist who finds himself wrapped up in the affairs of an abbey in its neighboring town. You're one of those artists / murder detectives. You read out.
You are the name of the rose.
Yes.
And this is a period piece in every single way. This is, like it's a game that cannot be separated from its setting. It takes place in Alpine Bavaria, and the events begin in 1518.
Yes. And it's worth, when we say it's a period piece, it is so screamingly a period piece. It is meticulously researched and observed. I follow the lead developer of this, Josh Sawyer on Twitter, who posts the research that he's done for this. And this is a passion of his. This is 100%, not 100% historically accurate, but 100% historically lived in and observed.
Yeah.
Detailed, rich.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real you're loving it. You're loving this, aren't you, Cole?
There's some just opportunities to Google things, and trying to find a nice way to say it. That part of it.
Like, it is very holistic, right? It is run through entirely with that sensibility. And sometimes I think passion project can be pejorative, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that ends up being pretty dicey because you can't count on it resonating. But what I think that Josh Sawyer has done an incredibly good job of communicating why one would be passionate about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come at this. I love this game. I'm gonna come at it from a different side of it, where I'm not particularly interested in. This is not going to make me go read a bunch of 15th century books or 14th century books.
No,
like I don't. I'm not. It's not that for me. It never occurred to me to be interested in the literature and such from this period.
Right.
And I'm still there. Like the passion has not spilled over into me. It's just spilled over onto the page.
Yes.
Giving this intense sense of place.
Yeah.
It is hard to talk about this in generalities without spoiling things. And ironically, it's kind of hard to talk about this there are generalities that will spoil this, not just specific plot points. There are things that this is that I think are interesting and worth talking about, but are kind of fun reveals.
Yeah.
I almost feel like this might be the first WAF with some generalities after the spoiler wall, which never happens, but I think that that's probably worth noting.
Yeah.
If this at all sounds interesting to you, and we're going to do our best during this first part to kind of describe the shape of it so you can determine that, you should go grab it.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. It does come with some caveats about the type of game it is. You have to be in the pocket for this kind of thing.
Yeah. And also you have to be patient with it. It is like getting into a big, massive new novel.
It's exactly like reading a book.
Yeah. Precisely. Yeah.
Like you cannot do this while doing other stuff. I was playing this in bed on, great Steam Deck game, by the way.
Yeah.
And playing this and, my wife like playing Zelda and commenting on it. And I had to be like, I love you, honey, but I cannot respond to you right now. I'm reading. Like this is just a book. I know it looks like I'm playing a video game. I assure you, I barely am.
Yes,
I am reading a book.
Yeah. So go check it out. It's on Game Pass. It gets a wholehearted recommendation for me. Yeah.
The shape of it, to kind of let you know what you'd be getting into, is this is a Night in the Woods like.
Yeah.
If you remember that game or played that game, you navigate this town called Tassing. It's a fictional town, and this abbey within it, the Curacao Abbey, from a side perspective, talking to people looking for clues. The pejorative way to say this is it is a talking to everyone in town simulator. Think about Night in the Woods or Shenmue as a thing, except I like it better than those.
Yes. Yeah. A thing that is important in a game that is as dialogue heavy as this is the way that they embellish it stylistically. By default, every character, depending on their station in life, has their text rendered in different typesets or handwriting. Either kind of scrolled out or, actually typeset shown there, illuminated Gothic script, things like that. And it is written out as they talk. This is not a voice acted game, but this is a way to kind of give some voice and illustrate exactly where these people are coming from.
Do double duty. It's telling you where the people are coming from and telling you where the writer is coming from.
Yes.
The perspective is coming from here. The dialogue in this, the mechanic of this game, is as you talk to people, you make choices. There are dialogue choices. It will let you know whether someone will remember a detail. If so, it can later contribute to a persuasion check. Things you say will either have a varying degrees of positive or negative outcome. So when you get to a point where you're trying to convince somebody of something, you'll get a big list of everything you've said to them and how it contributed. Positively or negatively.
And even if you're not making a choice that will directly affect one of those, it will affect the way people talk to you later on. This is keeping track of an awful lot. And when you learn exactly how small the team was on this, it's a Herculean effort that went into making this as expressive as this is. Dialogue also responds to your backgrounds. At the beginning of each act, You pick some background traits that will determine kind of your demeanor, your subject matter expertise, kind of opening up
what
these
languages you know.
Yes. Yeah. Also opening up new routes of inquiry and some of these unique relationships with townspeople. And all of this kind of adds up to you have problems that you need to solve, questions that you need to answer, and there are multiple ways to get at it based on your backgrounds and your actions.
Yes. I want to put a pin in what you just said for the post-spoiler wall generalities. Because there's something this is doing that I think is really cool and remarkable that flies in the face of that. That is definitely what it is on the surface. I think these things do matter to a degree with any kind of choice-based game. The topic of discourse is like how much choices matter. In this, can't say without spoiling something I think that it's neat that this game is doing. So just keep in mind it has the language of that kind of regardless. Like it presents as such. There are tricky dialogue choices where you can have your character think through it. And you have these kind of 3 devil angel Cenobites on your shoulder that you can hear from as well. And this kind of just gives you a little background information. It doesn't tell you what to pick. You know roughly like where each of these people are going to be coming from. Prester John obviously from piety, Socrates from logic, Beatrice from compassion, and Saint Grobian from fuck all of this. Saint Grobian from Goblin Town. My name's Saint Grobian, and this is my absolute favorite piece of shit. So these they'll show up on your shoulders. They also will show up later in these kind of mind palace sections. We even in good games we cannot escape realms. You go to a realm.
Yes, that's how Andreas conceptualizes things. The court of the ideal city
happens in his dreams.
Yes,
and he thinks about these various things. There is a remarkable thing about this game. There is a time limit in this game that is fairly strict. Actions will advance the clock to the next hour of prayer. You basically ping pong between activity and meal. This is the game telling you cannot do everything.
Don't try.
And by telling you that, I also think it's communicating this game is better if you do not. Julia, who sponsored the game, who I know from the Slack, said, "Hey, role play it. Like, don't. It's not Night in the Woods. It's not Shenmue. It's not a collection of people who may or may not have new things to say that you make the rounds in town every single day to talk to them. You're not going to be able to do that. You can't talk to everybody.
Right.
Just talk to who you'd talk to.
Yes.
And you end up in the same place that way. And you have a more personalized story. There is enough detail without you trying to be a gamer gremlin Roomba to get the full picture of both the sense of place and the plot. And I think this game actively discourages being a gamer gremlin Roomba for that kind of thing.
Even though the town and community that is depicted here is very small, you still don't, no matter how small your town is, you don't go around talking to everybody. Like, that's not a human behavior. You do not know every single thing that is going on. And you shouldn't want to. Like, if you the player might want to, but this game really, really wants you to. Like, Andreas Mailer, as revealed as the game goes on, is a character, not a cipher. So what you want to do in that matters a little bit less than if he were just a blank slate. You are not here reading a dictionary. You're reading a book. You're reading a narrative that can go in a couple different ways. The idea is not to get every single path. And the most satisfying way to do that is to decide what is most important to my Andreas.
Who are your friends? Who do you like? Who are you curious about? Just follow that and you will have such a fucking better time of this. And you contrast, like, I liked Night in the Woods. I think the Night in the Woods is politically is a really great place, has a lot of great music and art. It's a really interesting contrast with this, where that game, I tried to play it this way and felt like I was punished. I felt like I missed stuff. That felt more like it was meant to be hey, just make the rounds and talk to everybody. In town. And I think that's a genre that's part of the reason why this held me at arm's length for a little bit, because that genre I do not like.
Right.
This is the exception, not the rule.
Because of that structure, this is not going to be a comprehensive episode. These characters have so much detail to them, and there are just things that you're not going to see. We're not going to say, I think, your favorite detail about your favorite character, probably. For myself, I can only represent what I saw and like what I read when I poked around wikis and stuff.
Yeah. This isn't Bonfireside Chat.
Yeah.
It's a we can talk about our journey through the game.
Yes.
Yeah. There is every act has a central mystery, and this is when your time limitation is most meaningful.
Yeah.
You have to choose how you're investigating, which leads to follow, not just socialize.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of each chapter kind of has a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people will live and die based on your choices. Again, put a pin in that for something I want to say later. It's pretty meaningful. It's very similar to all of the narrative games we've done recently and kind of in the history of the show, from Night in the Woods to Norco.
Yeah. There's a minor detail about this, but I think that it works really well. You mentioned those meals.
Yes.
I like this quite a bit. Like, you are just deciding what order you want to eat your food in when you're looking at these illustrations of different meals and things. That's not the important part. Deciding whose hospitality you want to avail yourself of is a choice. You're going to learn things. That's not just a cosmetic thing. You're going to hear different gossip from different people. But the real cool part of this to me is that you can see a lot about the family and like the different strata of this place by exactly what is on their plates or in their bowls. As you're looking here. Yeah.
That's the coolest part of it. I could really do without the mini game of choosing the order of food I eat.
Yeah.
Like, you get to be a maniac and eat your plum pudding before you have your soup. Why? What is the point of that? But the choosing, I would have rather that just been a cutscene.
Yeah.
Seeing the food, I think, is meaningful. And they do cool things with it.
And there are a few kind of meaningless cuts or mini games that are put in here. Yeah.
I hate these.
Yes.
They did not add to my immersion. So some people, I feel like, have said, this is it. It adds to a feeling of investment. For me, I'm reading a book.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more than a book. I'm choosing, to choose your own adventure book, but I'm not playing a video game, and if I'm reading a book and somebody hands me like a 2x2 Rubik's Cube to solve, in the middle of a paragraph, I'm not super happy.
Yeah.
It's one of the, I have a suspicion, and this is maybe not borne out, that this was at one point a bigger part of the game. And the reason why I think so is because one of the very first things you do is like a mini game about making horseshoes.
Yeah, you help out the blacksmith. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's non-optional. He won't let you get away. If you talk to him, you do it. Why? It drives me a little bit nuts. Like, it is just here's one of those plastic boards with zippers, buttons, and snaps. Here's a ball. You can bounce it if you wish. Partway through this game.
Yeah.
I would cut every single one of these from the game, personally. Let's talk about aesthetics, because that's a really remarkable part of this.
Yes. This is a very pretty game. If we're grading this on pass fail, it is a pass with flying colors because of how consistent it is, and because they have made a deliberate choice to render this like illuminated manuscripts kind of crossed with woodcut style.
Yes. Those weird kind of people walking to the side drawings with the halos, from the time. There's a specific kind of art style. This is that's like in the margins, or old-timey maps will also have similar art style sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to describe it for people who maybe don't know what that means. But they stick to it for the whole thing. When they break from it, it's really intentional, which I also really like.
Yeah.
And it's really well done. They are good illustrations. There's a lot of beautiful scenes in this.
And it like a ton of character is put into the character portraits. The actual representations of them. And an important thing about this, and I guess last little bit here for the spoiler wall, because this might have to do with what you're talking about. This takes place over 25 years. There are there are 3 time periods where you come back and you are watching these characters age and die and have new kids that look and act like them.
Yes. And it's fascinating. Like, you're getting a 4-dimensional portrait of a place that is as well sketched as any place in a video game.
Yes.
Tassing is a real, by the end of this, it feels like a real place.
Yes.
You know, it's real weird to do this so quickly after Norco, which, you know, the big strength of that was its sense of place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not trying to say like this doesn't, Norco doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting to have two games. I think this uses it better.
Yeah.
If I had to, you know, say something about it.
Mm-hmm.
The music is Renaissance music style. It's fine for the story that's there. It kind of disappears in the background for me.
Yeah.
A weird thing I found out about the audio design of this is that a lot of people get ASMR from it. It's apparently a big ASMR game. All the woodland creatures and birds and stuff.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't experience that specific tingle, so I don't know, but apparently that's a thing.
Yeah.
The writing of this game is great.
It's so good.
Yeah. It's the pacing of the story, I think, is very slow in Act 1, beginning of Act 1 and beginning of Act 3.
Yeah.
Is kind of excruciating. It's real slow. You have to really get into the rhythm of it.
I found myself really needing to get used to the scope, right?
Yes.
Like, this is ultimately really small stakes, you know? Like, if you're coming from usual video game stories, which are always genre media, right?
Yes.
You know, almost always. Like, not saying that I prefer the story where the world is at stake and blah, 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 but you're just kind of, you know, used to a certain amount of salt and sugar on your food.
Yes. Yeah. This suggests salt and sugar.
Yeah.
But, you know, much like food at the time.
Yes.
Like they didn't have it. There are implications for these stakes, but you're also, has a sense of verisimilitude where like sometimes you're just waking up and seeing how everyone's doing. You know, I got to go do this chore.
Yeah.
Let's go do it. You know, there's a feeling of that. And I think that it is at its most intense in the beginning of Act 1 and the very beginning of the game.
Yes.
Which is kind of a bummer. Right. Because that's when you want to hook people. And I don't think this game does a really good job of that.
No.
And it sucks because I think that there's really cool stuff that you get. You just have to get used to the temperature of the water.
Yes.
And I am not convinced there wasn't a better way to do that. I think saying like it has to be that slow is maybe a failure of imagination. But as is, it is a worthwhile cost to pay.
Yes. Yeah. It'll take a little bit, but you'll know when the hook is set.
Yes.
Yeah. You've got to spend a lot of time learning new characters and new names, right? And I think that is a thing that bums me out about starting a new novel. Is like, oh boy, like I'm gonna have to start like making files.
New anything.
Yeah.
I don't watch TV shows for this reason. It's ridiculous.
I'm gonna have to like just in my mind, I'm gonna have to keep on making new file folders for these fools.
Yep.
You know, but I'm happy that I did because the characters are really, really well rendered. You know. And as I said earlier, seeing this sprawl out over these 25 years, I got really invested in kind of the paths of the people in this, you know, and it's really bittersweet when you come back and somebody's just gone and it's not treated as this big reveal. It's just, well, what did you expect to happen? Over the course of 7 years? Sometimes there's just absence. Sometimes there's just a hole left that is, you know, imperfectly filled by something else.
One of the things that I loved about this I don't know how much I got invested in the neighborhood. You know, this, like there are people who I liked and people who I didn't like as much, but I don't think I went as far with that. But what that ended up meaning was sometimes when people died, I had a different, very real experience. It was like, oh man, that guy died. I barely talked to that guy. Yeah. You know, and that was my ANDREAS was just like, oh, weird. Well, sorry. My condolences.
Yep.
You know, I got nothing to say. You know, I didn't really hang out with that guy. You know, because it's a town, you don't hang out with everybody.
Which one was he?
You know, yeah, exactly. Who? Yeah, there's tons of that stuff.
Yeah.
The time this is in, you know, we talk about this not having the salt and sugar. It is a really fascinating time. There is a lot of drama inherent to this.
Yes.
The invention of the printing press drove the monastery scriptoriums out of business. Basically, having monks write all our things was no longer the most efficient way to do it. And this is also during the Reformation. Martin Luther publishes 95 Theses in 1517, kicking off this big crisis of authority with the Holy Roman Empire. They were selling indulgences, and that sucks.
Yes. So we walk into this situation 1 year later, and everybody has an opinion about this. So there are, so right there, the Scriptorium and Martin Luther, two big threats to the core of this community, this abbey and the pilgrimages that bring people here, bring people and money here. This is also the Renaissance era, and it was taking over and taking hold even in these backwater parts of Europe, and feudal authority was being eroded by these peasant uprisings as well.
Yes. So. That is kind of the stage, and there are elements of that. What's interesting about this game, one of the things I think is remarkable about it, are that certain things in it act as historical education, and certain things have resonance now, and it functions as both.
Yes,
the class strata peasant uprising stuff feels very relevant now. The Martin Luther stuff feels less so. To me, because we're living in a largely secular society. Not that there aren't religious people, but we're a much more secular society. The idea of the church having power over me is ludicrous.
Yes.
But it still was interesting to learn about. And mixing those two things, like this feels like it's happening now versus this is history, was a really cool way to tie to the past, which is one of the themes of the game. The things are the same.
Yeah, I mean it's named after the act of painting over something, and
from the word Pentiment, which is a kind of cheese that they have in the South. Southern caviar.
You mean pimento?
I know, that's a joke.
Okay.
It's it's like palimpsest, but for paintings.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know, it's pretty, just to be me for a second, it is poignant playing this in a time when there is kind of an attack on, a flare up and an attack on history, right? And how, an attempt to try and control the way that is taught specifically to people, to address, to try and cover up injustices and make people think less about their current conditions, Yeah. So before we move on to like development stuff, you kind of alluded to wanting to talk about something that is Pentiment's trick.
Oh yeah. So yeah, let's put it go play this game. We don't have to do a big break or anything. Just know at this point you don't care. You're in the analysis zone.
Yes.
This is genre wise. This is a deconstructionist mystery. This is not a detective game.
Nope.
There is no right answer. Period to any of the mysteries in this. It is ambiguous. What this is a game that gives you goals that you cannot accomplish to illustrate the futility of that goal and a lot of other things as well. The way that things used to be, the nature of knowing. It is a deconstruction of the detective mystery genre. Very specifically. So when we talk, the reason why I bring that up and the reason why I was being cagey about that when we were talking about your choices and stuff is that they matter because people will live and die. In another way, they don't. You're not choosing the right answer for these mysteries. There isn't one. You are choosing who to die, but in every mystery, you are given multiple solutions, all of which are plausibly correct. You never know the actual person who did it until the very end, and that is set in stone.
And even then, that is only one part of the responsibility of this.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So it is doing things with video game. Yes, with video game agency by giving you a goal you cannot accomplish, making you feel like you have accomplished it. And then placing doubts.
See, that's the key word for this: doubt. This takes and makes doubt a mechanic.
Yes.
It kind of weaponizes, I think a very human, but especially a very gamer desire to eliminate doubt, to be entirely sure before you commit to an action. It is taking that and putting you on this pursuit and setting you against these limitations that are just, things that have to do with the time. They're just basic facts that you cannot know. And there are things that are out of your control about how this is going to pan out. And then afterwards, you do not feel good about
almost
anything.
All of it is out of your control.
Yes.
And you can feel good. You can come at this dovetails really well with the rest of the game that you can't do everything. So you can do one path and be absolutely sure. So there are murders that happen. We keep saying mystery. There are murders.
Yes.
You can be absolutely sure somebody did the murder because of the path you took, and you could take that path because you couldn't take the other ones. There is equally compelling evidence on those other paths that you are not able to see. So you can come out of something being sure about something, but you're not even wrong because there is no right.
Yeah.
There isn't an answer in the game.
No.
It's taking that feeling, it's punishing your greasy gamer goblin desire to be a super, super smart boy and be right about things and get all the good boy points. And it punishes and subverts your greasy gamer goblin desire to be a completionist and talk to everyone in town. Like, this is a very deconstructionist narrative game. It's part of why this is a genre I don't like generally. And I was like, why does this hit for me? And it's because it's fucking with it. It's taking the form factor of the talk to everybody in town and read a book in whatever order you want genre of video games and turning it on its ear.
Yeah.
It's not a straight putt.
Yeah. And when we talk about wanting things to be, integrative, right? Mechanic and
that's what
mechanic and story to kind of have a game put you into these situations where all that you end up having is, your own self-justification based on the work that you did, right?
Yeah.
And put that self-justification into a story and a setting where faith, you can decide how much that is, forwarded for your character and interact with people who are, only marginally faithful, but where faith is kind of a constant, constant
it's a world
subject.
Where it's more of a thing.
Yeah. Those two things play together so fucking well.
Yeah. It's really, integration is a great word for it.
Yes. And also the amazing joke of having doubt be a major theme in this, and the name of the person who is most responsible for what goes on is real fun. Pretty cute. Yeah, pretty cute.
There's a million cute referencey things too. If this is a thing that you, if you know about, this era and stuff. Yeah. But my point being is that this is not, it's a more artful experience than it initially seems.
Yes.
For that. And is it more in conversation with assumptions we make as video game players than it initially seems? And to me, that is the remarkable thing about this.
Yeah.
What is a mystery that cannot be solved? Like, you are simultaneously important in this and also not important whatsoever.
Right.
Because you can't stop these murders. You can't stop progress. You can't stop these things from happening. Also a major theme. The character who does succeed in thwarting these things makes everything awful by attempting to do it. There is a helplessness to this that this game communicates to you. It's a warm helplessness. It's not a bad helplessness, but time's going to keep going. Yeah. You are going to come back later. You're going to be a different person. Other people are going to be different people. People are going to die and move on. The world is going to keep turning. That is one of the best illustrations of that idea in games, which is not that uncommon of an idea to put in games, that like, you don't have the impact that you think you do.
Right.
This game does it very cannily,
and in a way that, I don't know, works very well for me as somebody who enjoys a human scale story, where very little of this actually does matter, because only one person can only matter so much in this.
Yeah.
Time will continue. You are as much you are as susceptible to it as everybody else in this setting. Yeah.
Yeah. And what they do with that is just explore themes and illustrate this town, this place, as well as any game. And that's it. That justifies it. Yeah. That is the end goal, and it succeeds in that. Once I figured out, so I went through this game, had the murderers who I thought murdered, and then the doubt was placed in me. And I was like, oh, I got that wrong.
Yeah.
I did a failure of the game goals. Yep. And then when I looked online and was like, no, there's not a right answer.
No,
there's plausible evidence for everyone. And then I was like, oh, that's fascinating. And then I looked around for other people, and there are still people arguing who are like, I found X, Y, and Z. It was this person. Like, they didn't get it. This is very this is me seeing it how I want to see it in some level. But it's very philosophically on board with my whole, like, stop trying to
solve the equation.
Yeah. Stop trying to solve the equation. Like, it is treating life like a a thing you can succeed at, in this way, or you can win at, or you can, be the good boy, grade me, I'm ever so smart. This is kicking that in the teeth.
Yeah.
And I love that because I don't like that attitude. I don't like it when I see it myself, and I don't think it's virtuous.
Yeah.
I think it is it's a low aim for art.
Yeah.
So
it is a higher aim, I think, to prize ambiguity and also to, again, portray something where the world is not going to end. Like in all of these cases, no matter what you decide to do, there's a future for this place. There is still time.
Well, and the future is also, like, regardless of what you try to do, the future is also tough.
Yes.
Right. So, like, not only does the future continue on, there is still time. You will not prevent the worst things that happen in this town. It will weather every life a little rain.
No.
It will deal with these things. You cannot stop the revolution. You cannot stop these things.
Yeah.
Really, really well done. So this game was written and directed by Josh Sawyer, as we mentioned. Worked on Black Isle stuff, specifically the director and lead designer of Fallout Van Buren before that, and then Fallout New Vegas. And that. He had the idea for Pentiment back in the Black Isle days, taking inspiration from a very cool old RPG that I've wanted to make a serious attempt at for many years, Darklands, which is a German CRPG that simulates a lot of life stuff.
I was unaware of it until I was doing research for this. It looks rad, and it's available on modern platforms, on GOG and on Steam.
It's one of the first GOG games, actually. It was one of the ones when GOG was first starting out. They did polls like, what should we try to get? And that was one of them.
Nice. So after Pillars of Eternity 2 came out, Sawyer pitched the idea again, saying like, hey, I want to do that medieval thing, and got approval by framing it as a murder mystery kind of deal, but also got approval based on keeping the team very, very, very small. Though this has Obsidian's name attached to it, this is an indie game.
Yeah. For a very long time, the development was just Sawyer and the artist for this, Hannah Kennedy. And at the most people, the team maxed out at 13 people. For that, which is absurdly small for a big video game.
Yes. They did a ton of research. It's impossible to speak in absolutes, but this has to be one of the most thoroughly researched games, in terms of very, very specific knowledge that was sought and incorporated. Let's say. Yeah.
It would be like if Townsend was a game designer. This is like a thing that it feels like Josh Sawyer just was already like, this would have been his thing if his thing wasn't games.
But
it's something he absolutely loves, and it drips from the game. It's
also very funny to imagine Microsoft's face, the company's face. Anybody
I was
there?
Imagining ANDREAS from ANDREAS.
Just picture the executives.
Microsoft.
Picture the executives. All right, we have Obsidian, so there's going to be a new Outer Worlds. That's pretty cool. We're buying this company. Yeah. What's this? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. A 15-hour,
very slow.
Incredible meditative game about faith and the inevitability of time and community, in which player choices don't matter, and they're like two mechanics. Okay,
okay.
Very well. Pretty great.
This reviewed very well, but it's hard to tell what kind of financial success it had because this is our first launched on Game Pass game, I believe.
Very, very bizarre new world of video games where how the money's happening, sometimes you can't really tell. Presumably good, who knows? It's on Game Pass, so a lot of people will play it and not be enthusiastic about it. The amount of people, like, the funniest thing about Game Pass is people being like, I tried it was on Game Pass, I didn't care, and then moved on. Like, there's not like it's almost like you may as well, but I don't know anything about it. I'm not excited about it.
What if fucking everything was like streaming video? Like, oh yeah, I watched the first minute of that. Well, I counted the same as everybody else.
It's exactly that it is. I will be curious as whether this turns out to be good for games.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's get into it. And now all spoilers are off for sure. So we're not going to talk about this necessarily in order. If there are things that are important later,
yes,
where later events cast new light on this, we're going to talk about it.
Right. So. The game begins with us erasing a manuscript,
yep.
which is very themey on this. We use a stone to erase it, and then we get the opening credits here, and we go into the first of these dream sequences, inside Andreas's mind, talking to his little Herman's Head crew.
Yes, it's very Herman's Head. Socrates, Beatrice, Prester John, and St. Grobian, my absolute favorite shitbag. And he's complaining about work.
Yeah.
We find out what he's basically been doing is he is getting some work in the scriptorium while he works on his masterpiece.
Yes.
And once he has that, he can return to Nuremberg, get married, and become a formal master artist. That doesn't necessarily mean incredibly good. It is a station.
It's a distinction. Yes. You had to be married, and this is an arranged marriage. Yeah.
Yes.
And he's unsure if this is if this is exactly what he wants. Right.
Yeah.
And we get a sense for what all these different aspects are, and St. Grobian takes us back to the waking world on the literal ship of fools.
I love the ship of fools. The little guy sticking his tongue out.
Yep.
On there is great.
Yeah. And he gets the last word in, kind of making a case for, hedonism and, just kind of fucking stuff up. And we are awakened by a young girl named Ursula coming in, letting us know that the day has begun.
This game does more to make children cute to me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not going to have children, I've decided to, salt the earth. But this made kids seem very cute to me. And I already loved animals, but the way this game does animals is so good.
Oh God.
Mousefinger lives in my heart. I love
Mousefinger and son of Mousefinger.
Son of Mousefinger. And there's also son of Mousefinger who doesn't get a name. But I love Mousefinger. And I love Ursula.
Yep. Did you do the thing in the Abbey as Andreas where you go into the cellar and drop a sausage from the link? Yeah, you can drop a sausage on the floor for the cat. And when you come back in the third act, the ruins of the place are just crawling with stray cats.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Yeah, no, I did not do that.
It's the promise. It's the promise of Fable, Yeah. Where like oh God.
Ursula wakes us up, cute little moppet, and we start Act 1, The Baron.
Right. It's time to go to work at the scriptorium. We're already late. And on our way out, we are staying in this house that belonged to the Gertner family, these peasant farmers. Our hostess, Clara, says hey, I'm really sorry to do this, but is there any way that you could pay your rent early? We owe taxes. The abbot stopped accepting crops as in-kind payments. He wants money. We're being squeezed.
And this is where we're introduced to the Gertners in general. This is our host family. We'll be living with them. We got Clara. Outside, we have Big Jorg.
I love Big Jorg. Big gentle Jorg. Giant.
Yeah, big guy. And he kind of does character creation with us. He makes small talk with us. We get to spend where we spend our wandering time, our traveling across Europe time. Yep. This determines languages and just being able to say, yeah, I know that. Mm-hmm. And then pick an avocation for ourselves. I ended up also picking Bookworm, but it was on my second playthrough. The first playthrough, I tried to do this as driving my character like a car. Okay. I started playing it and I was a little bit bored, and I was like, I'm going to be a jerk ass. Okay. I'm going to do all the jerk ass, like little slimy things. And it felt bad once the game started getting good.
Okay.
So I ended up restarting and role playing it as myself.
Oh, so you did like hedonist and rapscallion and all that.
Yeah, I was just being like, and occultism. I was just like, give me all the dark magics and that'll be fun. And then realize like, no, this is actually operating on a level where this will benefit a little bit more from being able to put myself in it.
Yeah, being a little bit more serious. Yeah.
Yeah. So I also chose Bookworm for my canonical playthrough.
Right. And my background, like where I did an apprenticeship, was in Italy. Figuring Italy's cool. So go to the town square, and it's crawling with sheep. You know, the shepherd family, the Bowers, they're trying to get their ne'er-do-well nephew Martin to help corral them, but he's too concerned, kind of eavesdropping on this rich stranger nearby.
Who's arguing with a stonemason.
Yes,
we'll see in the background. The way the sheep escaped. This is to funnel us towards the abbey. They're just blocking the path. It's very cute.
Yeah.
So we get to, Martin's going to turn out to be an important character. We can determine whether we support him or not, but he's a little shit.
Yeah.
The Klaus, the printer, hails us on our way to the house and asks if we're still on for dinner tonight. We are already friends with Klaus when the game begins.
Yes.
That is baked in. So I chose to be friends with Klaus in the game because I was like, oh, my guy already likes him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hang out with this guy a lot.
We pass by the church, and the Father Thomas, stops us asking, like, hey, when you going to come to Mass, buddy? And does the whole, like, I'm just worried about your eternal soul kind of thing. In reality, he just wants to hear confessions. Yeah.
Nobody likes it when someone says that.
Nope.
You get interrupted, kind of regardless what you say, by the Baron. Show up. This is Baron Lorenz Rothvogel, who's a nobleman passing through to check on a manuscript he commissioned. This is how he used to buy books.
Yep.
He bought a copy of the history of this town for the previous abbot, who he was friends with. That abbot has died.
Yes. But he's still going to give this incredibly rare book about the history of this place, to the abbey.
And he's found juicy things.
Yeah.
He said he's found some interesting and juicy things about the town. This won't pay off until Act 3.
Right.
This is a Chekhov's history.
But we're going to get a good sense for this guy. He is real provocative and makes a good first impression on you, but these waters run deep and shitty.
Not a good person.
No, it's nobleman. Come on.
Yeah, you get to choose how much you want to be buddy with him.
Yes.
So, and this will determine what information you get from him. But again, in the end, like, you're ultimately just role playing. He's fascinated by you. He talks about Martin Luther's teachings, the Abbey, and you can decide whether you agree. A really important thing happens when you say, "Oh, you seem very educated." Your typeface his typeface changes from handwritten to illuminated. This is Mailer's attitudes on people.
Yes.
This is him being classist. Even if you can play him as the nicest person in the world, he's still making these judgments. On people. This is where you choose your area of study between theology, imperial law, and medicine. I chose law. For this. Doesn't matter. Later, a bunch of times you can say that's not strictly illegal, and everyone has to shut up. It literally does not matter.
I chose theology because So I chose theology and occultism, kind of open to do like a mysticism, like Gnosticism kind of thing. It doesn't really play well because for theology, you can just kind of quote scripture and occasionally like balk at people's behavior as being blasphemous in a way that didn't feel like role play to me. For me, anytime you quote scripture to these people, often it's to monks, and they say, "Shut the fuck up! You're not going to quote scripture to a monk."
It's not. These choices don't really matter,
right? That
you're making here. They're determining a couple skill checks, a couple persuasion checks, and what flavor dialogue you get. They portray as if they're going to really matter, but it's part of the illusion.
Yes, we're passing through the meadow, and this old woods witch, Ottila, emerges and is like, hey, I'm going to curse you. You never should have come back here. And Lorenz kind of clams up and doesn't want to say why.
Yes. As we're heading here, we get another background choice for your minor education, Latin, logician, orator, occultist, or heavens and earth. So like natural law, plants and animals and stuff. I ended up choosing orator for this. Orator and heavens and earth and plants and animals.
Yeah, I did orator and occultist.
If you know plants and stuff, you can go and check out all the plants and you'll say a little thing about them. This is just for Chivos. If you want to collect all the plants. There is a weird collection element to this if you want to have it. I do not know why it's there.
Yes.
When you arrive at the Abbey, the Mother Superior is there and looks at Lorenz in disgust and then leaves. And Lorenz won't talk about this either. He's obviously been here before, has a long history.
Yeah. We're met by a true shithead, Abbot Gernot. who is at the door here, and he's furious with you for being late. Everything at this monastery is riding on the scriptorium, and sends us inside to work after Lorenz chooses to avail himself of the kitchen.
Yes. On our way, your character thinks out loud and kind of directs you here. It says you can check in with Brother Matthew for an advance on your payment. There to help the Gertners. And on your way there, you can stop by the scriptorium where you work and meet the crew.
Yes.
There's a young scribe named Guy who's a real piece of shit.
It's Guy. He's from he's from France. Yeah.
Oh, Guy.
I believe from Bourbon. Yeah.
That's a clarified butter, Cole. This guy's a piece of shit. This Guy's a piece of shit.
Yes.
And then there are two older scribes, Piero and Adoc.
Yes.
Who are old and solid.
Yeah. Just the way that this job has absolutely ruined their bodies. Completely.
They look like Dark Souls bosses. There's a bunch of characters in this. Once you meet the physician, he's straight up a Dark Souls boss. Like a bunch of these people are slowly warping into somebody who's going to carry a cauldron for Sister Frida. Like.
Oh man, everybody's led by Prior Ferenc as kind of the supervisor running this place. He is kind of attending to Lorenz as we work on the masterpiece, kind of this book of hours, for the monks. Andreas doesn't really have any passion for this. It's just a way to kind of jump this hurdle, right? And
that's going to be the theme for Andreas. His character being a guy, having a character not being a cipher. His character is about directionlessness.
Yes.
Falling out of love with your passions, things like that. And Piero will point this out. You can ask for criticism, and he says, it's aesthetically improved, but you're basically imitating the work of others. There's no part of yourself in this. You're not showing how things are now. You're showing how things were then. It's basically he's copying. A thing.
Yeah. It doesn't show a spark. So the prayer bell rings and the others leave. You're working here, but you are not a monk. So you're not called to that. You spill some ink, and while you're cleaning it up, the supervisor, Prior Ferenc, kind of walks in holding this strange round thing, like a round icon kind of deal, and scribbles in this big book on a podium and is looking real shifty about it, and then just kind of leaves. This is an important detail for later.
Yeah. Just getting ahead of ourselves. This is the guy who I fingered.
Oh yeah. No, he's gotta go.
Yeah. He's got to go. I don't know. I don't think he did it. I don't know who did it. Don't think it was him, but I was like, this is fat. I think it's kind of shoving you towards this by making him do something suspicious. And then he comes in, he's a dick. Yeah. He's big time in the monks, Sister Luminata will be there from the library door. They can't come out. They just talk through the library door and wants you to gather up some books for them. They're left around the scriptorium. You do so. And the last one is a forbidden tome, which you have to convince her to let you keep. Otherwise it's going to be destroyed.
Yeah. Opens up some fun mystical responses, right? We're getting into like Apocrypha and stuff. Later Gospels, disavowed stuff. Love that shit.
Yeah. We're introduced to our first lunch cycle here. Go eat, and you get to choose who you go and eat with. You can eat with almost anybody. They'll allow it. You can open up a map and it will show you little dinner dog icons of where you can go eat. And this is to get information almost purely.
Yes.
Here. Fuck me if I remember all the people I ate with. You eat dozens of meals in this game.
Yep.
So I do not. Yeah. But this is just what parts of the story you're going to get.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Like I ate with Otto and ANDREAS, kind of the craftsmen, and they fucking hate the abbot and screw that nobleman for coming here too, because he's part of the problem as well.
Yeah. Otto is also a buddy.
Yes.
You're baked in friends with Otto.
Yeah.
On your way back, there's a monk there, and you can listen to the monk tell the story of the patron saint of the abbey, Moritz, who is a Roman soldier who defended this town full of Christians. This is going to be very important later for another major theme of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to hear many different versions of this story. His miracle.
And the true version being like selling in else entirely. Like once you find out the end.
Yeah. His miracle was that he and his men were snowed into this valley. It looked like they were going to die, but a wolf led them to a spring. And when they drank from it, the snow melted and the hills bloomed with fruit.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah. One of your responses is, doesn't that seem slightly implausible?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very funny thing to say about miracles.
Yeah.
Just me looking at the entire history of religion. Like, I don't know.
Little sus, gotta say.
Yeah, it's all pretty sus. I don't know. Mysterio was involved. So you get back to work. And while you're there, Lorenz arrives and is pretty hard on my boy, Brother Piero.
Yeah.
Criticizes the pace and the quality of his work.
Right.
And he wants you to take over. He's taking a shine to you because you're young and because you're a cosmopolitan, because you're not from the sticks originally. Yeah. You know, he sees you as more of a peer.
Yeah, you can talk to him about books. You're worldly, like he is. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Unlike these yokels, he invites you to eat with him and the abbot.
Yeah. So we go to wash up, and Brother Piero is here. And you can choose to comfort him and say, like, hey, you know, they're being unfair to you, right? And he is pretty, you know, kind of okay with it, saying like, yeah, no, I am slow. Like I'm really, really old. Time passes for us all. Things will change. The future will ride over the present.
Yes, it will. Pentiment. Once you know that's the theme, all these little drops in the beginning seem very obvious, and it feels like it underlines it a lot. In the actual execution of the game, it's much more subtle.
Yeah, I'll make it's just a choice of what I make notes from. So I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what that is. Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's go.
You have dinner, and the way monks eat is you just sit there quietly. While somebody reads scripture to you. It fucking sucks. But Lorenz is a normal person, and he doesn't want to eat that way. So he starts bringing up conversation, and he's trying to stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah.
He keeps bringing up Martin Luther, and this is making everyone upset.
Yeah.
Eventually asked you about it, basically going over the abbot's head.
Yeah.
You know, you're a guest here, and the abbot loses his patience.
Yes.
Lorenz accuses him of being afraid of change. You know, reform is coming whether you like it or not, and Gernot loses his shit.
Yeah.
Calls him a blasphemer.
Right. And Lorenz responds saying like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go through with my donation of this town history. You know, I'll pay for this manuscript or whatever. But, you know, if you can't accept what the future will bring, perhaps it's time to come to terms with your past.
Yes. And he leaves the table. You're asked to leave as well, since you're not a brother. Of this, depending on how you act during this, he can be more mad or less mad at you. You can, you know, take his side or not. Again, ultimately, it doesn't matter too much. Right. As you return to the Gertners, you notice that Lorenz still has his lantern lit in the guest house, and there, as you pass by, there's somebody who appears to be a ghost on the aqueduct in the background. This whole town was built on Roman ruins, so there's all this awesome, like, fun urbex.
Yeah. And it's just like, well, okay. I don't know if that was a ghost, but it was certainly weird.
They're dressed like a ghost. They're wearing a sheet and stuff. It's very funny.
And as you head back into town, you pass by the church and you meet the anchoress. Love the concept of an anchorite or an anchoress. People who are literally built into the wall, who would just exist to have visions. It rules. It's an older woman named Amelie, who's kind of yelling from the inside, talking about a pale horse on the floor and death. And Father Thomas comes out and gives us this kind of primer on what an anchoress is. You know, she experiences
or a mystic. He calls her a mystic as well. So if you're not familiar with anchoress as a term, it's like somebody who sees visions, speaks in tongues.
Yeah. You know, just she experiences these things. She also has like a spinal condition, you know, some kind of spinal or joint kind of problem that has physically disabled her. And so she, you know, kind of lives this life of devotion, literally built into the wall.
Yeah. See, again, seems like it sucks.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where you learn that it would really suck to be a member of the church in this time. Generally, it seems bad.
Yeah.
The next morning, you wake up and the farms are flooding. There was a storm. A lot of characters kind of told you they could feel it in their bones.
Yeah.
On your way to the Abbey, we see the stonemason, Lucky, warning Father Thomas that they need to do some digging to fix the foundation of the church. Otherwise, it's going to crack. And Thomas wants to put it off. This is also foreshadowing, even though it's very subtle foreshadowing.
It's also themey as well. Like,
no, the foundation is
there's
rot.
Skylar, there's rot.
Rot, yeah. Like,
Like, no, you do just, if you don't take care of this foundation, it's going to crack and no more church. Yeah.
And he's like, that gives me an idea. How do I fix the foundation?
So we're headed to work and we're in the meadow and we pass Shepherd Till. And he says, like, it tells you the story of the town's patron saint again. Here we are. But it's a different version. His version talks about this Roman general, Gaius Metellus, who was snowed into the valley with his people, and this wolf led him to the spring. And the trees bloomed and stuff like that. So suddenly stuff is changing. It's not a chieftain, it was a Roman, right?
Yeah. And that's going to keep happening.
Yes.
Again, theme. Martin the shithead runs by. And if you took the shitty background and you've been like, yeah, fuck your family, he'll stop. But I didn't do that.
Yeah.
You can't stop and ask what's going on. He's running towards the Abbey. As you head
he's
up
running
the
away
Abbey,
from the Abbey.
Or running, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Running away from the Abbey. The Baron's assistant is there outside and asked if we saw him running away. Because somebody stole some things. Some of Lauren's rings are missing, along with that book about the history of Tassie. Yeah. So, and kid's a ne'er-do-well, right? Like, people have talked about him being a thief and getting into fights and stuff. So this is fully in character. We go to work. I love how simple the art style is and how much he looks like a little shit. Like, you can look at his face. And
he's like, a little Nelson.
Fucker.
Yeah.
He's a very Nelson Muntz. Imagine if the guy came up to you. Like, he looks like absolute dog shit. I hate him.
So we go to work, and as we get going, there's a scream coming from the chapter house. This big room where some of the religious books are held. And you rush there and find all these monks and nuns gathered around a bloody dead body. Baron Lorenz has been killed, apparently stabbed to death, and Piero is standing over his body holding the knife, caught in flagrante.
Yes. If you have the law background, you can say actually not in flagrante, because we only saw him after, not when the thing was happening.
Right.
And literally everyone is sick of your shit.
Every
time you draw on your background in this game, like, again, just a subversion, right? Like, you have customized your character to be a special little unique snowflake, and you want to get the good gamer point of being, I chose the right option. I get to say this, and nobody ever likes it. It's great. The best you can hope for is, be that as it may, and just moving on.
It's honestly, it's kind of a hard habit to break, because when a response is attuned to a previous choice that you had made based on your background or stuff or your expertise or what have you, there's a little icon next to it in every single RPG.
Every single RPG, let's give credit where it's due. We learned this from New Vegas.
Yes.
We learned this from Fallout, like, this was a New Vegas thing. With this studio's work, this creator's work.
Yeah.
He trained us and now he's spanking us for it. It's hot.
So it's like, no, I initially want to gravitate toward that. And I'll look at that and say, like, no, that's not how I would speak. B, only an ass would say that.
Yeah, this doesn't help anybody. What does this do for the greater good? It's funny because he's alone. So it's really, really, this was my first time doing that, being like, technically, in flagrante doesn't mean that. And just everybody fucking hates it. It's so good. Laugh out loud moment. The abbot is worried that this is going to bring unwanted attention.
Yeah.
Which obviously, like, a noble died here.
Yeah.
And he's very, worried. He just wants to have somebody to offer up.
Yes.
He has brother Piero locked in a cell. Brother Piero is 1,000,000 years old.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally no way
he can barely hold his pen when he is when he is illustrating. He could not stab somebody.
Yeah. But he was holding the knife, and he has motive because his work was criticized.
Right.
And you can argue about this because it's obviously wrong, and because you like Piero.
Yeah. Piero's a mentor, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the loathsome Florian, the Dark Souls boss title card, pops up as Brother Florian stomps in to crunch your bones.
By Florian, do you mean one of the coolest and most sympathetic people in the Abbey?
He's great. He's just like super tall, and his hands look like they terminate in stubs that make him look like a tutorial Dark Souls boss.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got an eye patch. Yeah.
He really looks like he's got like a 6-hit combo in a second phase.
It's got an ass stomp. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
He also has a really cinched in waist.
Yeah. He's incredible looking. He looks a lot like something from a 2D Dark Souls to me.
Yeah.
He's like a Assault and Sanctuary boss. And he comes in, escorts you out, and he sympathizes and says, "Hey, come back later when I examine the body."
Yeah.
Like, I know Piero was your friend. And everyone is kind of deferring to you because you are educated.
Yes.
You know, at first it seemed weird to me that everyone was just like, this guy will solve the mystery. You know, and I'm just like, I don't even live here, man. But it's because you are from the city. It's serfdom mindset.
Yeah.
You know, it's peasant mindset. Like they have internalized that you are a better.
Yes.
And then when you come back later in the second act, they resent that more. You get to see things moving on.
Yeah. And the only other person who is about like as educated as you is the town's only physician, the doctor, and he's a piece of shit that everybody hates.
That guy fucking sucks. He he lives on the piece of shit side of town. Like up north where everyone who sucks lives up the north.
Baltus is fine.
Baltus is fine. I didn't spend very much time with Baltus. So we have a time limit now. The Archdeacon is going to arrive in 2 days, and we better have somebody to give up. You know, so now we are no longer, I mean, we've never been just in free time, you know, because time is going to move forward, but now we have a limit to figure out and investigate and try to clear our buddy. Yeah.
And we're going to get 4 leads. We go to have dinner with Klaus and Marie Drucker, you know, these printmakers, and discuss this and kind of like go over the suspects. Right. Yes. We have Lucky, who was in a shouting match with Lawrence, you know, and Marie says like, "Hey, talk to Mother Cecilia about him. She might know something." There's the widow who cursed Lawrence from the woods. There's Prior Ferenc, who was acting strangely around him, you know, doing all that stuff. And then finally, Mother Cecilia, who was scowling at Lawrence and ushered the nuns away from him, kind of seeming really protective.
Yes. If you're hearing this and you still haven't played it, a little tip that I have is that to use your map very consistently. So like I was told that I need to come back for the autopsy, and the way it's communicated to you was that there's a sense of urgency to it. Like throw this rock at the window and I'll let you in, but I'm only going to do it this time. When time moves and when it doesn't is usually very clearly communicated. Yeah. But what you need to know is that your options for what to do to either move time forward or get information are always on your map.
Yes.
You just look at your map and there'll be a little symbol and says, "Hey, check this out." A little clue symbol, magnifying glass. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get to Brother Florian before it was ready. Yeah. I thought I had to do this sooner. And it's not. And this doesn't help that the Abbey has a pretty confusing layout. Yeah. It's several 2D maps on top of each other.
Yeah. Goonies 2 problem.
Yeah. A very complicated thing. Yeah. Eventually, though, you go there, you throw a pebble, and Florian lets you in and walks you through the autopsy. Yeah. We find out from this that the knife wound in the ribs was shallow, probably came from falling on the knife.
Yes.
Not from being stabbed.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have killed him. Piero had nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Shouldn't have picked up the knife. It was a dumb idea, but, you know, that's not a crime, really.
Yeah. He's trying to defend himself. Or, you know, Piero. Yeah. And what killed him was this very bad head wound on the back of his head. Yeah. An object 4 to 5 inches wide, a single blow.
And he wouldn't have died immediately. We know from Midsummer, you're gonna, you'll stick around for a little while.
Yeah, a guy later in this game sticks around for a real long time.
He does
for like a season.
Yeah. You know, so he might not have been attacked in the chapter house. So again, casting doubt here. The only blood that you see is on the wall in the chapter house. But that's about it. We're just not going to know the specifics of what happened here. And as you're doing the search, you look in his jacket, the pocket there, and there's a note. A very important note. It reads, the girl who died and the innocent with her, Martin's chapter. Martin's being a time of the day, chapter referring to the chapter house. And this note is written in a highly refined Gothic script. Nobody in the scriptorium writes like this. It would have had to come from somewhere else. And it is written in purple ink that is not around in this town.
Yes. This is going to be our, "Hey, Mr. Policeman," the snowman.
Yes.
For this game. This is gonna be a recurring theme. I did not go to. I went and started fucking around going into Frank's house here. So I did not go and visit Lawrence's wife. I never met her.
Oh yeah. You can just go talk to her, and she's like, "Yeah, this is sad, but also like, he wasn't that great, kind of thing." You just had supper with her. It's like, yeah, I'm really worried because, like, depending on how the courts rule, I might not have a place to live. Like, it's really hard to get remarried, and she's gotten used to this. There's a letter on the table here from Prior Ferenc to Baron Lawrence. Lawrence is blackmailing Ferenc to get him to perform an occult ritual.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can get the other side of this exchange from Ferenc.
Yes.
From digging around in his fireplace and in his apartment, which is where I started following this lead. It's interesting that you can get to the same. There are 4 leads that are all equally valid, and you can get to this one's at least from multiple angles.
Yeah, each of these like little lines that you can take connects to the other one about midway through. Like you'll get a clue that leads to kind of begin another one.
Yeah. Yep. The book Frank was writing in earlier when we spilled our ink. It's a defense of astrology, but the lines are uneven. There are lots of corrections, and there's a place where there are astrological symbols.
Yeah.
The book was slammed shut, so there's a wet ink imprint on the facing page.
Yeah, this is what he kind of wrote down in a hurry when we saw him earlier, when he walked in while we were cleaning up ink. This is a cipher. It works out to this nonsense Greek word, which is probably another cipher. And the key is probably this volvel, like a wheel chart, like a decoder ring, and be sure to drink your Ovaltine things. Yes.
It's how you knew you were playing a legit version of Starflight. So you got this, but you have to go to sleep. Sleep waits for no one. Ursula wakes you up in the middle of the night, wanting to hear a story.
Yeah.
And you tell her the story. You can tell her a couple different stories. One of the things is if you, or maybe it's another little girl who you can encourage to be into the occult.
Nope, it's Ursula. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You can get her.
Starts here.
You can get her interested in the old ways and condemn her to death.
Yes. Yeah. This is the beginning of that path.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of. You wake up the next day. There are several leads you can follow. Here. So we got a couple of different ones. We can't be totally, exhaustive about this.
Nope.
At all. And it's beyond our scope and beyond what the game wants you to do.
Yes.
So what I did in a basic sense, I'll kind of explain my path and then, go through because it's the thing I can speak to. I hounded Brother Ferenc. For here, broke into his house, or just walked into his house, used that code with the astrological sign elements, did a little puzzle, lit, like pretty nonsense, to get the word, Heigerhard, here, or Here Lies Gerhard, who is a brother who died last year. We do the rubbing charcoal on a blank page thing to get the blackmail response. So that's how I found out about the letter. There, and there's a burn note in the fireplace that looks like the other notes we found, the fancy notes. So we go and check this grave, and it's been disturbed recently, so we have to get this dug up. Otto would have done it, but at this point, the abbot assigned me a goon.
Oh,
Did you
no!
get that
guy? No, I didn't get that guy. You had you had a tail. Yeah.
You get I think that was probably the implication, is that he was sent to follow you. He gives you this gormless little fat guy who, your guy will talk about it, how he's very nice, but he's very slow.
Okay.
And incredibly credulous. Like you can convince him to do anything.
Yeah.
So I went and I was like, okay, this guy will help me dig up the grave. He said, hey, did you ask the abbot? And I was like, and then I went and asked the abbot, and the abbot said, no, like, of course not. And it gave me the big list of all the things I had done that the abbot didn't like, so I might've been able to convince him, but then I lied to the gormless little moron, and said, yeah, he did, and made him dig it up. And
you made the gormless guy dig?
Well, because I thought he was a tail. Yeah. Like I thought he was being used against me, so I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'll use this
sounded outrage there. It was very funny. Yeah. It's funny that you made this little goon do it.
He's the picture of him is very funny. He's a real baby Suggs. He looks a lot like the dungeon master from the old D&D cartoon.
Oh yeah,
If you like, he looked just like that.
yeah.
So he dug it up, and I got kind of a history lesson about different people who had died.
Yeah.
In the graveyard there. The important thing is you get the sack in there that has all of these arcane tools and a silver plated rod that has a bloodstain on it that would be the right size, 4 to 5 inches, to smash in a head.
Yeah.
There.
That was the thing that made me ultimately point the finger at Ferenc about this.
Yeah, the bloody staff thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it just he has opportunity. He's in the place. He has the the motive. He's being blackmailed for his occult interests. He refused. He had refused to do this ritual that Lawrence wanted him to do, and he has what looks like a murder weapon. Like, that was sufficient for me. I still do not know if I sent a not innocent man, but yeah, you're there. Yeah.
You'll never know. There isn't a right answer.
Nope.
There are people who think there is, but I promise there are not. If you look it up, canonically there is not.
Yes.
I did that for him, and I wanted to get rid of him because he's a huge dick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not above that.
No.
I had no particular feelings about the town crone or the stonemason. Who's not going to like somebody named Lucky?
Well, no. I liked Lucky, but I thought that he had kind of the most. He had been physical with the Baron before. And he's strong. He's incredibly strong. Like, we see him lift up a huge stone, like to fix a wall. Like, he knows what he's doing arms wise. Yes. He won't talk when you ask him about it. When you ask him about that confrontation, he kind of knows that you're sniffing around trying to pin something on him. And so we have to follow him around, and we get these comedy scenes of you very obviously following him, doing a bad job of hiding yourself. But you get to this, you get to a gravestone out by the salt mine that is marked "To Innocents," buried outside of the church graveyard. So there's got to be something going on with that. And there's a note with these flowers. Again, the fancy notes reading, "Remember the girl, one grave for 2 innocents, the red bird flies, Matins chapter." So somebody is writing notes to these people with why the Baron's got to die, having very intimate information about these people and their affairs, and telling them where to go and kill this guy. Yeah.
I love how obvious it is in retrospect. Mm-hmm. The twist. Like, I didn't know it at the time, but it all pieces together. It's a good mystery. It's a fair mystery in that way.
Yeah.
You can ask Lucky about the note, and he doesn't want to answer. You can glare at him, and eventually he'll answer and say the note was left with his tools. So somebody's definitely leaving it there.
Yeah. There's more information about this from 2 places. We can go and have dinner with with good people. Smokey, the charcoal burner, who lives out in the woods, and this wandering Romani tinker, Václav. And Smokey is a big old gossip. He lives separate from the town, but got to keep entertained somehow. They saw Prior Ferenc performing some kind of ritual in the woods, with his own blood, doing some blood magic there. Yeah. And we also get information about another possible lead that I didn't really follow. The Kitchener monk and the Kitchener nun have been out having sex in the woods when they go out shopping.
I don't even know if this is a lead towards anything. It's just showing how they end up.
It's showing how they end up, but also it relates to, that's Wojslav and Matilda. Wojslav comes by and, kind of seems like he's putting a squeeze on you, saying, hey, no matter what you learned, don't you say shit about Matilda. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's a little bit of a red herring. Yes. He's not motivated for the reasons you might think.
Right.
You are told at one point, if you want to get the information, there's a spinning bee. All the women get together to process wool and they gossip.
Yeah.
And you can hang out. You can't be in the room with them because you're not married, but you can hang out in the window and help.
Yes. Yeah. Fun little scene. Martin has fled town. And we also learn that the 2 innocents grave belongs to Lucky's youngest daughter and her unborn child. The Baron was sleeping with her. Baron was sleeping with a lot of people in town, but got her pregnant and, had made her a bunch of big promises, then just went and disappeared.
Yes.
She attempted to end the pregnancy, didn't work, and she killed herself. And that's why she is buried outside of the churchyard. can't be buried on holy ground if you commit that sin.
Yeah. Sad.
Yeah.
Here, this has a little pointless mini game that you do at the same time.
Yes.
You can go and check in with the crone, with the widow Attila here. And Attila, I failed to check for her to talk to me. Yep. And I didn't have a meal with her. So I just kind of like hung out and she's like, fuck off. And I'm like, righto.
Yep, I respect that. Yep. I'm bad news.
The Baron was responsible for her husband dying.
Right.
You can find out.
Yeah.
And if you go to the convent garden, you can find a shovel with some blood on it and check with Sister Matilda, who had gone missing. And she's the one who uses it most.
Yeah.
She says she used it to kill some baby rabbits in the garden, which is reason enough to get beheaded anyway. So honestly, I wish I had done it, but
yeah. Her motivation, he had, again, been having an affair with her and roughed her up so badly that she had to go and like convalesce in a hermitage.
Awful.
Yeah.
And she has a note. The note said, remember what he did to you. The red bird flies, Rothvogel, red bird.
Yes.
Rothvogel means red bird.
Right.
There's one other suspect, but we can't actually finger them, which is Martin. We find out that he left town right after this happened, and we saw him running by, and some things were stolen.
Yeah.
So it makes him suspicious. Even if you do, I wish there's a better word than finger.
Yeah.
Even if you do implicate him in this, they're like, well, he's not here. We need somebody.
Yes. Somebody's got to die because that is the concept. That's the system of justice. Yeah.
Yeah. That night you have a dream. You go back to the realm there. As you return home, this is when Wolslav tells you to stay away from Sister Matilda. Please don't say anything that implicates her.
Yeah.
And you go to sleep and go to the realm. On your way there, you have to navigate to the center of a maze.
Yeah.
And we get the first appearance of our soon-to-be wife, Sabine.
Yes. And you can talk to her. Like, you've never seen her. You've never talked to her. You just have a drawing that your brother had made of her. Right. An artist always flatter. And you just like talk about your uncertainty about this. And you also talk to your father, who was kind of asking like, are you sure you want to follow in my footsteps? Like, are you going to stick with this? Because like other stuff you have tried, you abandoned that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go back, you go to the realm, you talk to your crew about the case. The archdeacon will not be swayed by wisdom, honesty, reason, or authority from you. You say, I'm going to do all these tasks, and it says it won't work.
Right.
Beatrice says you should hope. Grobian says you should do lies. Socrates, the truth. And Prester John says providence. Whatever, man. You can't serve all these masters. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can have your last meal before the trial. Did you have the dinner with Brother Sebat?
The only thing I know about Brother Sebat is that he was having an affair with Mathau.
Cool.
I don't know if you walked in on that, but they fucking.
I did not.
Yes, they fucking. I did not talk to him at all. I just saw him in flagrante inside Matthew. I can't remember who I had dinner with this night. It might have been the Gertners, because I was thinking I wanted to tell them that I couldn't get the money.
Oh yeah.
Because I had tried to, but there's not an opportunity during dinner.
Oh yeah.
For this, because it's a well integrated game, but it's not, it's not real life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a cute scene with Brother Sabat. He is visiting Ethiopian Orthodox priest, and it's a style break. Like, he has drawn like the illuminated manuscripts from that country, right? Or that tradition anyway. And like, the town children have gathered, and he is reading to the children from his own Bible. From his Ethiopian Bible, and showing them how those stories are illustrated. And they ask like, why is everybody brown? And he talks about like, God makes people of all kinds, right? This is just the way that we tell the same stories, but we look different. And it's very sweet. Also sweet is one of the little children, Anna, will steal your hat from you during one of the scenes here, and you can decide whether or not to call her out. If she takes that hat, she will be wearing it in Act 2 as a young adult, and it's all patched up. And in Act 3, when she has her own children, it is even more patched up, and it is on the child.
Yeah, very sweet.
Yeah,
cute little bit.
Yeah.
During this part, Sabat can talk about Lazarus, and one of the kids says he saw a ghost. emerge from the old room in ruins on the night of the murder.
Yeah.
We know there are ghosts in play. There's not really a ghost, but we'll find out who this is.
Yes. Yeah.
We have our court scene after this. We speak to the archdeacon and we have to tell him what we know. I talked about Prior Ferenc. I didn't talk about anything else because I didn't want anyone else to get hurt. I just brought up all the evidence for Ferenc.
A little bit frustratingly, you can bring up the notes. I think this is a kind of a sour note here. You can bring up the notes, and he says, "Oh, that's outside of the purview of this investigation." And it's like,
doesn't seem like
you don't think it's weird, dude?
Yeah. Seems like it would be part of it. Like, what is the hurry, my man?
Yeah.
Like, I understand that we had to come up with something by the time this guy got here, but I don't know why this trial couldn't have taken a couple days.
Yeah.
Or like he's not investigating, or anything. Like, I don't understand what the rush is.
Yeah.
Once he's here.
Yeah. At the end of this, you can actually ask, like, you can, you give the information, and depending on what you found, like, that will make the case. You can also push things in one direction. And I lay out and say, like, hey, can I be candid with you? Prior Ferenc is the one who seems most likely.
You're living the dream. You're calling out your boss and getting him executed. You literally, your boss abused you that day, and then later you get him beheaded. Like, this is a workers' rights game in that way. But yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Frank seemed to be my guy. And you get the execution. Everyone gathers for it here. And this is heart-wrenching. An execution is not good. I think it's weird that everyone watched them. It's a pretty nauseating thing. He's freaking out. He's sobbing. He's panicking, saying this is not right. I didn't do it. And the executioner takes multiple blows to behead him, which is hard to watch, even in this abstract art style. Yeah.
And he even says, like, hey man, hold still. Like, it's done in the whisper font. Yeah.
Yeah. Very rough. Gernot approaches afterwards and he's furious.
Yep.
He knows you did it. And I'm like, you can't, I said, you can't blame me for this. I didn't fucking murder him. I'm just a humble artist detective. For some reason, the town made me figure out who did the murder.
Now I'm just a simple big city artist detective.
It's very funny that he gets mad, even though, like, why was this my job? But you get banished from the Abbey. Your final payment will be sent to the gardeners.
Yeah. You don't have to be banished from this. If you implicate anybody else and they end up being killed, that counts for you. I believe that even if that's the case, if you were enough of a dick to Gernot, he will still banish you.
Yeah. He doesn't like you.
Right.
And when we say banished, you'll come back.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you're not banished. Brother Piero bids you farewell. And you show him your masterpiece, which you've been working on some time. And you have now put yourself in it. You put something true in it. He's proud of you.
It's little scenes from little scenes from around Tassing. It's neat.
Yeah. But when you open up, a note falls out, and it's in the script, and it says, "Do not return here," in the purple ink.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
And, you are standing in the graveyard when this happens. You say goodbye to this mentor, Brother Piero, and Andreas leaves from the left side of the screen, and then things get dark, and there's a little scene transition, and then walks back in from the left. Now it's raining, and Andreas is 7 years older. He's kind of grown this beard.
You look like Leonardo.
Yeah, he's dressed more fancy. And you have an apprentice. You have this kind of surrogate son named Caspar for Act number 2.
Well, you get to decide how much of a surrogate son he is.
Well, yes.
Act 2 is by far the best part of this game.
Oh, yes.
It is the strongest. It's a page turner. In terms of this is the only act I think has no pacing problems.
Yeah.
It's also really deft at really underlining that Andreas is a character.
Yes.
Outside of your control over him, which I think ties into what the game is doing by making your background choices not matter. Like, whenever you say, like, hey, I'm the player, I decided I'd be an expert in this, and everyone tells you to shut up, it's because it's not you, the player, it's Andreas.
Yeah.
The things you have input on matter less. We're going to slowly get what happened in those 7 years. And it is like, I think some of the most effective writing in the game.
Yeah.
We came back to the grave. Brother Piero has died.
Yeah. You're passing through, you're returning home to Nuremberg for another vanity project commission, right? That you're dreading going to. And Brother Guy kind of meets you here and is like, hey, well, look who decided to come crawling back. Ask where we've been. And we pick where we were for our recent commissions. I pick England just because I'm basic, Yeah.
Like all of these things, it's just going to determine what languages basically.
Yes.
Here. He asked if you knew any Jews there, wondering if they found a home after the recent expulsions.
Yeah.
And then says, hey, you shouldn't be here. Like, nobody really wants you here.
Yeah.
In the 7 years since, they've built an inn.
Yeah.
Here.
Gotta give those pilgrims some place to stay. The Golden Hand, named after the relic of Saint Moritz. Yeah, the hand.
His hand. Yeah. As we head there, Andreas and Caspar can talk about that murder that was happened 7 years ago, and we can choose our tact with Caspar, which is going to matter a lot, but also how we feel about the murder, how sure we were about it.
Yeah.
And what leaks out in between the cracks of this is you are very dissatisfied with your life.
Yes.
This is one of the very few pieces of media that deals with one of my favorite sub themes, which is getting what you want and it not being what you want.
Yep.
I love it when this happens. People, I think, are very predisposed to choose a single thing and say this will fix me. And that's never true.
Never.
No. It's the call is always coming from inside the house. Like, you can improve your circumstances. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but it takes more than usually a silver bullet to fix you. And he's been living in a kind of hell. It's also playing with the idea of scales here. He is existentially very sad, and that counts, but these people are starving, and that counts more. It's a really interesting scenario to contrast these two different levels of suffering.
Yeah. And it hangs over every single interaction that you have, which is when you're talking to people and catching up. And like, it's not just the Abbey. People outside of town are very unhappy to see you because you said that you would write and you didn't. This is especially true with Klaus, but like, everybody kind of gets this impression like, oh, you went away and you became too good for us. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's they either you should have written or just like, you don't know what problems are.
Yes.
And they're right.
And
you are walking around like a sad sack, and you live in a fucking you're rich. Your husband rich. You're going to pay for this,
So when I say it hangs over every interaction, pretty much every dialogue choice gives you a chance to indulge in your like ennui and despair. People will ask like, how are you doing? And their kid is, coughing in the background, and it can be like, oh, just things, time keeps on slipping. Or you can be like, yes, the disappointment of,
between the Bernie Bros and the client from hell,
Andreas Needy Drinky. Yeah.
You can Andreas Needy Drinky them. And it's important that no matter how class conscious you try to be, because in my role-playing conception of this, Andreas was a good person, tried to be a good person, and was aware of this.
Yes.
Gary was aware of it, but you have the option to be fairly aware of it. It doesn't really matter because condolences from the fortunate don't only go so far.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like this is a powerful statement in favor of material aid.
Yes.
You saying like, oh man, that sucks. Thoughts and prayers doesn't do very much.
Nope.
Like it's better than being like, yeah, sucks to be you. I have the client from hell, need drinky, but it's not good.
Right. And I mean, it's my favorite thing about Il Peter, the grandpa from the Gertners, is like, he is the one who like, no matter how humble you try to be, he's not having any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It totally different life experiences. You have no business. You have nothing in common.
Yeah.
With these people, and you don't pretend you do.
Yeah.
It's and the people who you're friends who don't think of you that way, you have not treated well either.
Right.
Like it is a sad situation that it puts the player in, and it's not, you didn't author it. Things you didn't act one do not determine how you come back.
And that is an incredibly relatable thing. And it's like almost entirely what Night in the Woods was about, actually. Like you come back home and the clothes don't fit anymore. You know, that kind of thing. And here it feels incredibly poignant as well. Yeah.
I like in Night of the Woods, the characters were kind of in a similar situation. Like the clothes don't fit, but you find mutual enemies, in capitalism. There isn't a class difference. This has that angle of, haven't you done well?
Yes.
For yourself, which I think is good.
Yeah. But I decided to treat Caspar, like, even before I knew the detail, like, because Andreas has had his share of tragedy as well. Even before I knew that, I was like, no, like, you're trying to teach this person not just to be an artist, but trying to teach them how to function in the world, in this station. Right. So, like, being a mentor, tell them, like, yeah, I know, I want your life as an artist to be different and better. Like, like, don't let me bum you out, but, like, understand that this is a risk.
Yeah. And by doing that, you get him killed. I also did it.
Yep.
So by being nice to him, it is again subverting a gamer trait.
Mm-hmm.
You will get the way worse result by doing what you are trained as a gamer to be the right thing.
I mean, and for me as a person.
Like, but I was gonna say, like, it is trained as a gamer. Like, typically you want the everybody wins. And when I say, like, trained as a gamer, it's interesting how much of it is the Obsidian style.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're trained as a gamer specifically by this fucking creator, in a lot of ways to do this. And as a person, it plays that way in real life, when a lot of times you can try to do your best and do what seems like the good thing and still have it be a negative result.
Yeah.
People's mileage varies on how much they like that.
Mm-hmm.
I always like it because I think it happens all the time in real life and it feels very lived in.
Mm-hmm.
I want games to trick me
in
that way, usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So on the way to have dinner with Klaus, we can run into Otto and Martin talking about something that's up with the attic, and you kind of catch up a little bit. As Martin leaves, we get this little thought about how his mother said he always sneezed when he was in the meadow, but he's not sneezing.
Folks, we got an Armin Tamzarian about.
It is an Armin Tamzarian. This is a real weird thing for you to notice after 7 years.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why Andreas remembered that. I don't. Wait a minute. You're not sneezing. There's that great Mr. Show sketch about the sitcom, The Dads and Kids, with the guy Fartin' Gary, who comes in to be the star of it. And it's a sitcom, and his boss comes over for dinner, and he's like, "Hey, we threw out their salad, their 3-bean salad, but they think we ate it. Can you fart for us?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then Dave Foley comes over as that. He's like, "So, did you like my wife's casserole?" And he goes, "Yeah." "Well, I don't hear you farting." It's exactly that. Like, I don't see you sneezing. It's such a weird fucking thing to notice.
Mm-hmm.
And they underline this plot so many times. I think they probably could have dropped like 2 hints about it.
Yeah.
Like, not drop a hint, but omitted 2 of the hints it gives you.
Yeah.
Because it ends up being very obvious the Armin Tamzarian that's happening.
Yeah.
Otto, the important thing here is Otto says, "Hey, I'm going to give a speech at the Commons. You should really see it." I think
yes.
Like
Otto has become a revolutionary. We're going to find. Yeah. So we find Brother Geet having this really heated conversation with Father Thomas. Again, we're just setting up all these little conflicts that are going to implicate a bunch of folks.
Yes.
And he takes this opportunity to blame Andreas for Ferenc dying and being replaced by Matthew, who's like less mean, but still incredibly annoying, which coming from Brother Guy, I don't know. Matthew seemed okay.
Matthew's pretty obnoxious. I spent a lot of time with Matthew in the first act trying to get money from him and stuff. And he's a real stick in the mud. Yeah. And you can write him in third act and he's, I love how you can go no holds barred with this. Like, it's rare in a video game where you can be like, "Shut up, you dickhead." Like, things like that, like, "Shit, you fucking asshole." Like, you can say stuff like that to people who are being assholes.
Yeah.
Eventually he apologizes for doing this and says, "The reason why I came is because the abbot wants me to invite you to the library." want to see if you want to buy some of their books.
Yeah.
The Abbey is in dire financial straits.
Yeah. This is a huge deal. Like, the Abbey is supposed to be this thing that is protecting these works, right?
Yeah.
It is a treasure, even beyond just the symbolic value, the actual, monetary value of these things. It shouldn't be like a garage sale so you can make rent, right?
Yeah. If you took the bookworm background like I did, you can act like a real fucking maniac about books.
Oh yeah.
Anytime they come up.
I do.
It's so funny. But the books, like you go into hysterics about this kind of stuff, and your character will their eyes will get all big. Like, it's really great. You lose your mind. And I say this as I love books. I own lots of books. I'm not saying you don't have to hand it to books. Yeah. It's just a very funny way for your character to act in the face of human life and justice and such.
Yes. It's also one of those things where like your mileage is going to vary on how much that works depending on like how much you can put yourself in the time. Cause like for me, like there are people who just, if you want a book for free, like you can get one like super easy. You can get a bunch of them. You can have more than you ever need. Yeah.
I could walk outside and grab a book right now.
Yeah.
Like there's probably one sitting on on my garbage.
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah. I have hundreds of pounds of books just in my living room. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even read them. It's some of them I read. Some of them I haven't read. They're just there.
Yep.
I'm going to lay them all out in like a Pac-Man trail for Andreas. He's like a moth.
Yeah.
Like a bookworm.
But just in this era where, full books are rare things still, it can be, you just gotta go along for the ride for it.
Imagine they're sealed copies of Earthbound.
There are only so many of those
sealed
left.
Copy of Earthbound Hound worm. We talked to Klaus. He's very mad that you didn't write him.
Yeah.
His wife had died, and he's right to be mad.
Mm-hmm.
His business has expanded, and he's printing a lot more things. He's printing something called the 12 Articles, which are revolutionary text. This is Otto's cause. Otto is having him print up this revolutionary pamphlet.
Yes. Yeah, and it's making making good money. You can point out like, hey, isn't Otto illiterate? And he says, well, he gets the gist of it. Like what's important is, it spreads to everybody else. Right. Yeah.
He is illiterate though. That's ends up being a clue for later. Yeah. And I love that he, this version of friendship where he's mad, but he's just like, we'll just talk about this later.
Yeah.
Like you go back a while with Klaus. Mm-hmm. Like Klaus is not going to disown you, but he's still pissed.
Yes.
And the apology scene is really good.
Yeah.
And you do that. It's very awkward and emotional.
Yeah.
You go and see Otto's speech, and it's about how the abbot is bleeding the town absolutely dry.
Yeah. We saw this with the Gertners, earlier. The elimination of in-kind taxes, as it goes. And it just, like we're going to find out the scriptorium had closed. Or wait, no, had it by this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's burned down in Act 3. So there's one where it's open, one where it's closed, and one where it's non-existent.
The scriptorium had closed, and they're putting all of the burden for this on the townspeople who are already being squeezed by the miller, by this complete asshole, Muller. Yeah.
The miller, who is very similar to Van Glauer in Gabriel Knight 2, at one point invites me to go hunting, and it felt like he was going to fuck me. I didn't spend tons of time with the miller, but what a dick. We knew he was a dick in the beginning of the game. Like people would talk about him, and you could go visit him if you wanted to. I never did. Didn't go to the north side of town very much.
I didn't have a reason to go up there. Yeah.
Yeah. He lives up north too. He's a huge asshole.
Yes.
He's making big profits off of this.
Yeah.
But people are saying like, hey, you're going to get the town raised.
Yeah.
Hannah, who runs the inn, and the miller are saying this, like, this is just going to bring down soldiers on us.
Mm-hmm.
And Otto says, listen, I found a sign from God. The saints themselves support this movement, and I'm going to reveal it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just you wait. Yeah.
Hey, can you reveal it now? Like you got everybody in one place
in one day. I hope nothing happens. I'll see you later.
I'm going to get this big mouthful of coffee, and then we're going to go to bed, and we're going to come back tomorrow.
Yep.
You can talk to ANDREAS, the town blacksmith, before you leave. And, he gives another detail here. Like, he's in with the peasants, even though he's a craftsperson, specifically because the abbot has enclosed the forest.
Yes.
You are no longer allowed to use it for firewood or to forage or to graze because it is considered property of the abbey and therefore the nobility. Not enclosed like with a wall, but enclosed as an enclosure of the commons.
Yeah. It's not allowed. And this is one of those things where my character as a law character can be like, well, he's in his rights to do that. And me just being, I wouldn't click on that if you gave me $20. Like, what a horrible thing to say. These background choices suck and just make me a worse person.
If you click on that, like a little bit should be flipped in some like central database, and then you should be denied credit.
Yeah, it's like, well, actually, it's perfectly legal. That's such a well observed, like that person who exists online.
Yep.
All the time. Well, it's within their rights. They actually have a legal right to do that. Like, it's not what we're talking about.
Go home.
Yeah, ridiculous. So you can join Clara and the Gertners back at the old house for dinner to catch up. And the dinner is very tense. Times have been awful.
Yeah.
Here. And this is where Il Peter gives you shit.
Yeah.
You respond by trying to relate to them in some way, but you cannot.
Nope.
It's night and day, and he does not let you off the hook. It's very awkward and tough to sit through.
Yeah. So go back to the inn, and as we pass by the church, we get Amelie, the anchoress, yelling about the sin of Saul, saying, "This, Philistines, this is the hand of God. Compline, compline."
Yes. Compline's a time.
Yes.
In this. When she comes out of her reverie, you can repeat her words back to her. And she asks Casper to go get Father Thomas. You can look in on her cell and talk to her about what she does. This is the first time you can really get a chance to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
She's been doing the incredibly bleak and normal thing of being built into a house and digging her own grave as she's alive. People, you can be mad at me if you want for saying this. Religion's kind of fucking nuts. Like the degree in which it can do good is awesome. But you look at something like this, or the monks who turn themselves into mummies.
Yeah, like, the saponification thing.
Yeah. There's a degree of religiosity that you can participate in that absolutely makes you a fucking psychopath. And it's amazing.
Yeah,
like all of this real shit. Like, I'm just gonna live in a wall and dig my grave.
I mean,
that's my life. I've chosen that.
Even like the central reason for this town existing, which is like there is a trade and business in people walking across a continent to see a body part.
Yeah, to see somebody's freaky fucked up hand.
Yeah, and like this is even above and beyond, the Catholic Church being a job placement system for pedophiles. Yeah.
Diddler Central.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's all pretty messed up, even when it's operating as intended.
Which doesn't make it less fascinating. Like, it's really cool to read about, but also like looking at from any objective measure, it's like this is wild. It's
from soft shit.
Yeah.
Like all of the stuff seems like an NPC in a Dark Souls game who would be built into the wall and dig their own grave.
Yeah. I like the conversation you have with her because
she's a great character. Like, all the times you can one-on-one with her are really good. Like, she's actually, relatively normal when you talk to her, except for the fact that she lives on a wall and is digging her own grave as a hobby.
Has these visions. Yeah. But like, and just the conversation you have, you being so, just you being so disenchanted with your line of work, your vocation, and then just this exploration of the different meanings that vocation can take. Like, yes, you are an artist by trade or whatever, that cannot stand up to somebody like her who interprets vocation as a literal calling, a calling from God to come and do this thing.
Yes. Father Thomas shows up. They go inside and you head back to the inn to go to sleep. The next morning, there's a note on your floor in the script that says you were warned.
Yeah.
Done. Spooky. You're told to stay away.
So I go up to the Abbey, to check things out. The scriptorium has been shut down, like we said.
And buy books.
Well, yes.
Like you were invited.
Yeah. And you go into the library and see that for the first time. You can look through the books like, you're trying to make some amends to get a book for Klaus's daughter, baby daughter Magdalene. And you can pick one. I picked the bestiary because
I did the bestiary as well.
This will affect when you play as her later. But you also find this partially burned book, this Latin translation of Origen's teachings. And the script is in the same hand that made the mysterious notes, and nobody will answer questions about it.
Yeah. And somewhat suspiciously, but some people seem like they don't know.
Yeah.
It's not in the catalog. Brother Adok might know something about it because he's been here longer.
Yeah.
We go to Klaus's house to have our meal and visit. He has other guests. There's a Jewish couple visiting, Benjamin and Rachel. They're printers from Prague, in the same line of work. Rachel is extremely progante and goes into labor during dinner.
Pergnat.
Yeah. How did she get pergnat? Yeah. Probably dick.
Yeah.
As you leave, you're asked to leave because baby coming there, and you check out the bonfire for the preparations in the town square.
Yeah.
Otto is having women forage for herbs in the forest as is the tradition, even though it's against the orders of the abbot.
Yes. Yeah. He says, talking up, we're going to get this proof of God's support for our cause tomorrow. He's just walking around signing his own death warrants left and right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brother Wolzhov comes and tells you that the abbot has invited you to eat dinner with him. You accept. You can be reluctant about it, but you have to accept. And you want to talk to Adok anyway.
Yeah. And, he'll tell you hey, forget about that book. It came from this place of darkness and fire, and speaks about this presence in this town, something that is trying to keep things the way that they are.
Yeah. And you don't know how metaphorical or literal he's being. He's a very old man. It's 7 years older.
Yes.
So there's a deniability to this. The abbot invites you into dinner to give you his side of the story. He knows you're an outsider and you have influence. And he's basically saying the same thing that people in power always say when they raise taxes to unreasonable degrees. They have no choice.
Yes.
They lost this revenue, because of the scriptorium closing. That was your fault. And the person who made the case for raising taxes, which saved the abbey, was Brother Guy.
Yeah.
You can say, well, surely they should be able to forage and hunt in the forest.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's theft. I'm going to excommunicate anybody who gathers herbs for the festival. At one point, he says something like, I will execute anyone or excommunicate anyone. Like he says it like Judge Dredd. Talking about cleaning up Future City or whatever. It's really great. Like the font gets all big and shaky. It's wonderful.
Oh yeah. So he's not even going to make that, that single concession, right? You ask him hey, can you meet them halfway? And even the simple thing, it's not about the taxes. It's not about, what would be reasonable. It is literally they do not have the right because that would take something away from me.
With that, and it's a change.
Yes.
That he wants in the natural order. He is in the resist change, being foolhardy theme.
Yeah.
Party. So we go to the festival. Il Peter and Ottila still hold to the old ways, and they're talking about Perchta and the wild hunt. This is like a pagan god that was here. And this festival they're going to have it looks like a midsummer festival. It's a pagan festival that they're going to have because the early Christianity had a lot in common with pagan rituals.
Thanks, Constantine.
For reasons. For Pentimenti reasons.
Yeah. I choose to let Caspar stay and watch this again, sealing his fate.
Yeah.
I'm not strict with him. I do not send him back to the hotel.
Yep. And then I go to sleep.
Yes.
Here. Don't make trouble.
Yeah.
We have another dream. We walk the labyrinth. And this is where we get I love the way this is revealed. We've seen Andreas and how he's ended up, and we haven't seen why until now.
Yes.
We don't get the answer. And we get Sabine, and this is all incredibly tragic.
Oh yeah.
She's like, come home and you can be like, you say whatever you want. Like, did you ever love me? Was there any love for me? And you can role play it as you want. Like, yes, at one point, I don't know, etc. Until she eventually mentions your son, August, who has died.
Yeah. And Andreas loses his temper and just wills this away. But he cannot will away the vision of his son, August. Yes. This little blonde-haired moppet died as a toddler due to plague. He just appears and doesn't say anything. He just, appears in the text bubble, ... just looking at you.
Yeah. You're saying a lot of classic, I thought I maybe had forgotten your face.
Yeah.
This is very sad shit.
Can you give me just one night kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. You go to your mind palace, the Dream Court, and it's seen better days.
Mm-hmm.
It's this horror show. Everyone's gone except for Beatrice, who is huge and looks different, looks darker. The fools from the ship of fools are strewn about, destroying the place, and Beatrice is now Melancholia.
Yes, the caution that breeds despair. He has stagnated. Yeah.
Yep. You can ask about this, and they say, she says that the city and the court are governed by your mind, which has brought ruin to the place. Like, you're responsible. This is just reflecting you.
Yeah.
I'm all that remains, the melancholy of life's autumn.
Yeah.
You should wake up now. Andreas is not in a good place mental health wise.
No. And that's only going to get worse.
Yep. Oh, yeah. You wake up, it's the middle of the night, and Casper never came to bed.
Mm-hmm.
You go looking for him in the woods, which is full of costume revelers, people in masks going out to the woods to fuck and fight.
Yeah.
Basically get drunk and do stuff.
Yeah.
You eventually find him at this shrine to the second saint of this area, Saint Setia.
Mm-hmm.
Satia? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I've got no reckon on how that is.
Yeah.
If it's Latin, it would probably be Satia.
Yeah.
Abbot Gurnet runs up. He's out here like, "Oh, you animal house!"
Boss Hog rolls up from the abbey and shakes his fist.
I'm gonna put you on double secret excommunication. He's running around chasing these people, and we hear a scream. And it's coming from town. And as we head that way, a reveler runs past us, his beaten feet, and kind of drops some of these yellow flowers as they go.
Casper picks one up.
Yes.
Maybe a clue later. We return to town. We find a crowd gathered around Otto at the Wrath House, which is being built. A big common house there.
Yeah.
And he's been crushed to death by a stone.
Yeah.
Somebody in a costume pulled the rope, releasing the platform on him, and then ran away.
Yeah.
Witnesses say.
Yeah. And so I don't get this move at all. My Andreas had Casper check this crushed body, this man, to check his body for a note. I guess, yeah.
It's his only opportunity to see what bones look like on the outside.
What if a bone was powdered while there was still flesh around?
Yeah. You got to learn about it someday, kid. Toughen up. But yeah, there's no note. Once we find the purpose of the notes and who's giving them, this makes sense.
Yes.
Right. Like the notes are for the killers, not for the victim. The only reason why there was a note on the Baron was that was the first.
Yes.
Yeah. Otto's wife, Eva, shows up and wails. Very sad. The abbot shows up and the peasants turn towards him and blame him.
Yeah.
And chase them off with us as well. We're also outsiders. And we get this little chase sequence where we run back to the abbey.
Yeah. And the monks lock themselves in the library. They literally cloister themselves.
Yeah. And they're going to set fire to the place. Yeah. You barely convince them to stand down and say, listen, he didn't do it. He was with us.
Yeah.
If you remember, he was running through the woods going, so he couldn't have done this. And they're like, okay, you have one day to figure out who it was, or we're going to burn this place down.
Yeah.
Very resonant with modern times. Anger has to go someplace.
Mm-hmm.
When you do not have access to the person who is causing your troubles, that doesn't get rid of anger.
Right.
Just because, we can't punch institutionalized racism, or what have you. We can't punch the specific police officer who killed the specific person of color. That doesn't mean that the community is just fine now.
Yeah.
Because we don't have access. Like, doing that doesn't do anything.
Yeah. So we've got another murder to investigate. Yep. And, my Andreas was very motivated to save these books. I imagine any Andreas, would be, if not just to save the lives of the people inside. Like, it would be unjust. That the abbot didn't do it, even if you hate him. And like, you can decide how much you want to side with the abbot. Like, I think he's a dipshit. Doesn't deserve to be burned alive, probably.
No, and it would burn alive everyone else.
Yes.
And you have friends in the abbey. Like, a lot of the people in the abbey are solid.
Yeah.
Andreas tells Casper that they should talk to the miller. He was the one person other than the abbot to have something against Otto that we saw. As well as Hannah, We could ask around the golden hand, but Hannah also spoke out against him. Martin was arguing with Otto. And then there are the flowers. So we get our 4 leads. It's when this happens again, anytime something happens a lot, I laugh. Every time this guy goes to this town, someone just gets murdered and he gets a new job.
It's real it's real Murder, She Wrote kind of thing.
It is real Murder, She Wrote. It's great. It's very funny. At some point, it's very suspicious.
So like, what was your thought process here?
I did not have anyone I was leaning towards in this one. I ended up fingering what's his head, Martin, for this, because something was definitely up. I figured out, but I failed my checks to get very compelling evidence and ran out of time. Which I love as a thing that happened. They put me in a really interesting moral spot, which is one of the things that video games can do that I love, which was, do I think this guy did it? Probably not. But do I want to see all these monks burned to death because of my indecision? It's a really interesting trolley problem. In a literal sense. Like, I pushed an innocent in front of a train, and it turned out, I knew not an innocent in general, like not a good person, but somebody who I do think was innocent of this crime. But I did it because it was expedient and because it would be for the greater good. It's not a good thing to do. It's a shitty act, but it was the only one that I felt like I had, and I ran out of time.
And it also falls directly on you, right?
Because the town isn't going to solve their own problem. Their solution is burn everything. So I couldn't leave it to the town people.
I didn't do anything with Martin. I mean, when we say he's an Armin Tamzarian, we're referring to infamous episode of The Simpsons. Principal Skinner is an imposter. Like, he's Martin, quote unquote, is a partner in crime who kind of came back and took his place after the real Martin died.
Yes.
Yeah, he was looking for a second life.
Yeah, he was a ne'er-do-well. And I went to go confirm this with his wife and the people around him, and failed all of those checks because I just didn't do the right things beforehand. I hadn't built up enough goodwill with the people I was talking to. The way you would succeed at this game, in the way a video game defines success, would be to explore any avenue for the murderer that were the people you have the most history with. And like you the most, because you're the most likely to get information.
Yes.
Not who you actually think did it, just who you happen to have had time to talk to the most. So I ended up doing that. I found out from the doctor that he had a scar that disappeared. I talked to several people who remembered that scar, so that was made me think like it's either a double or identical twin or something. And then some travelers in the inn thought they knew him as another guy who was a murderer in this other town. So I was like, okay, this guy's probably a piece of shit. But again, I just had to pick somebody. It was a great moment of role playing, of being stuck in a difficult situation.
From what I read, like, you can talk to his wife. Like, if you pass those checks, she'll say, like, of course I know he's not the same guy, but like, he's trying. Like, and I need a husband.
It's very similar to the Armin Tamzarian. Like, let's all forget this. This is the lie agreed upon. It's better. I did other stuff as well. Went and checked some other things, but just nothing that led very far.
There's a new character in town, Baltasar. I decided to go eat a meal with him just because he was new and new tinker. That's fun. And he didn't see anything the night of the murder, is what he says. But he will show us his invention. Didn't invent the plow, has invented the idea of making an automaton that can be shaped like a person, a robot, make a robot to pull it. Shaped like a man or beast. It doesn't matter.
I didn't end up talking to Balthazar very much, partly because I felt the idea of an old timey inventor felt very silly to me. Like, Professor Megorium's fantastic Flabtrapulus.
Professor Horatio H. Huffnagel's Contrabulus Fabtraption.
Well, also a good invention. I was expecting that kind of thing. So I barely talked to this guy. I did go talk to the miller. Here, which is good to get background in the miller because bad things are going to happen and you want to feel good about it. Linhart, you go there and you talk to his son outside of the place. We learned that his dad recently got a hunting rifle. He's afraid his dad doesn't really know how to use it, and his dad can get very angry.
The wife is afraid too. Like, it's very clearly a case of domestic abuse happening.
Yes. I went and had dinner with them there, and found out a little bit about his whole steez, which he is a real piece of shit. He, at the time of the murder, he wasn't there. He was with Balthazar, but he shuts his children up. His son wants to be an artist, like us. But he doesn't, his dad does not allow him to. He threatens his wife and kid during their meal. It's all awful. And he eats really, really well. Again, showing the social strata. Here.
I think there's 2 desserts on the plate and meat.
It's ludicrous. You know, he invites me to go deer hunting with him, which I didn't do. I got Big Van Glauer vibes, and it's like, you know what? I'm still getting over my son. I'm not ready to start a new fucklationship with a handsome blonde. I'm
good. You can go with him. You go up into the mountains. He just talks like a villain about the peasants. Like, he'll say like, you know, like they're nothing but grist for God's mill, though the women can be useful. Like the women have their charms. So he's availing himself of them. Also, if you have any background that relates to the Dutch, he'll try and fanboy with you. Fucker loves the Dutch, and we'll talk about the hills of this place. And it's like, you know, it's a fucking like it's a wetland plain, right? Like it's the whole thing. It's the only thing about the Dutch about the Netherlands. You asshole.
Huge dick. Going here and being friendly to his son. Here at one point you can talk to his son. This will have implications in the third act.
Yes.
So.
But Leonard is like, hey, you know, just blame Martin. He's obviously the one. You know, that's pretty much it. He promised that he had information, but really he just wants to sway us.
Yep. He wants to get rid of Martin. You go to bed. This is all the time you have. I love how your character is so committed to getting a solid 8 hours of sleep. Even when life and death is on the line, like it's time for bed.
Self-care.
Can't keep looking for stuff. There's a part I kept trying to go into the little clearing that the flower led to, and my guy was like, "We'll do that when we have more time." And it was an hour before the deadline or whatever. like, what are you talking about? You know, just again, it's a good game, but not perfect in that respect. My character knew that I would have another chance, even though he wouldn't. You go to bed, and Peter and his men wake you up. And they're like, we're finishing this, like in the town commons. They want to hold a trial, you know, and you can tell them, like, you can use your law to be like, this isn't a trial, and nobody likes it. But then you convince them, like, give us some more time.
Yes.
You know, as the really great little moment here, as this is happening, everyone's arguing, it's coming to a fevered pitch, and the midwife comes out. And says, you fucking idiots, shut up. There's a woman giving labor in here and you're stressing her out. Like this, you are being a fucking, and this is what cools everyone down.
Yes.
You know, we have until the child is born. Like we'll keep our peace for the sake of the unborn baby.
Right. And then we get a reminder, the peasants aren't in charge here. An envoy from the local lord rides up on his horse. The Duke of Bavaria said, like, hey, you guys need to release these monks. If you don't release the monks by the end of the day tomorrow, then the army is going to raid the town. They're going to do it by force. So bad news. Warning. They're going to put down the revolt. So we have one more day to do this.
Yes.
I decided to chase down that yellow flower lead because they're related to somebody who was fleeing the scene. You fall into a cistern in these ruins. These ruins dedicated to it's like an old bathhouse kind of thing, and you can walk up and down the aqueduct and see places where this leads. Like there's a dark place that only Casper can squeeze to, but he can't see anything, and he says it feels wrong in there. I didn't have him squeeze because I didn't want him to get. I felt like they were going to take my surrogate son away some way, shape, or form. So I didn't have him do that. You eventually go into the convent kitchen and grab a fire poker to wedge some stones. As we go, there's a more recently installed door we can find, but there's somebody sleeping in front of it. So we can't open it here. This is gamey. This little portion, video gamey in a way that I'm when the game does stuff like this, like, hey, there's this urgency about this murder mystery, walk around and find inventory items to get past obstacles. I get kind of bummed out It's incongruous. Yeah.
It's incongruous, and it's a pacing, not killer, but like a pacing slapper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it feels like it damages the pacing a little bit.
Yeah.
The important thing you do as you get through here is to go to this grate where we find Lenhart and Hannah, the owner of the inn, outside, having recently fucked.
Yes.
Talking about Otto's death. And they both say, like, hey, we haven't done it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like, you didn't do it, did you? No, I didn't. Did you? No.
Well, and Lenhart's a huge asshole about this. Like, are you seriously asking me that, you dumb piece of shit? Like, he's awful. Like, you know, Hannah did get a note, though, suggesting she should.
Yeah.
And this is where you can say, Andrea says, oh, Hannah would maybe do this. Because if the Abbey shuts down, then there won't be pilgrims.
Right.
And her inn will be valueless. No one's going to come visit Hassing without that.
Yeah. You can talk to her son, Killian. Say like, hey, has your mom been acting weird? And he brings up the note. And the note says, he will destroy the Abbey. Hell will swallow the hand of St. Moritz, the rat house, after St. John's fire. So same MO, giving them a motive for why you should do this and naming a place.
Yes. You can also find out here, talking to the son and her husband, that he is a cuckold. You know, the son says she's gone a lot. You find out that they have sex, and you can confront her with it. And depending on how much she likes you, this is where she can admit that she does that. When I went and talked to the husband, I was trying to get more information about it, and my only options were to tell him about the affair. It was fucking incredible. It was just like, this is a weird thing for a video game to do. So I tried to tell him as gently, and it's a great moment. Like, you're like, do you know? And he's like, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. What am I going to do about it? Yeah. What am I going to do about it? Like, it's really sad. Yeah. Very sad little story with these guys.
Yeah. So for me, you know, I wanted to know where that one place in the Abbey was, like that I couldn't get into. Never found it, but it got me poking around up there. And I did this little side quest to bring some food to the monks. You could
I did
learn
that with the cutest nun that's ever been.
Yep.
The little round nun.
I love
her.
Who
also kind of looks like the dungeon master from the old D&D cartoon.
Yeah.
Very cute.
Yeah. The guilt trip that they give the peasants.
Yeah.
You know, because like they're using this church, they're using the monastery side of this place as a toilet, basically.
Yes. They riot.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I had already found the secret entrance to the library. Through the crypt. There was a funny moment before this where I had dinner in Act 1 with Mother Illuminata, and she told me about the entrance. Ooh. And you have to act like you don't already know if you'd already found out. And then she's like, please, we knew you were in there.
Yeah.
When I was in there, that's when I saw Matthew and the visiting Ethiopian hanging down.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that plot goes anywhere, but
I don't, maybe not. For me, it was like, you know, all my options were, so that's where it was.
Yeah. It's well, that's why I said too, but she's like, fuck off, man. Like, we know. So I also went and fed the monks because I wanted to go talk to my friends who were there. I still hadn't talked I wanted to press IDOC a little bit more about that book, things like that.
Yeah.
And you sneak past the peasants going through the crypt in the library and share a meal with the monks there who are holed up. Our brother Guy says he saw somebody running away from the festival in the costume with dark hair.
Yeah.
Also
proof. Not me.
Yeah, not him. They had dark hair, not blonde like me.
Yeah. So you can talk to Wojslav here, and he says like, hey, Otto is pretty upset. You know, like just the abbot would not open the abbey's books. You know, he wanted to see like where all of this tax money was going. But he won't say which of the brothers was offended by this. This is a lead for another possibility here. You can go and shake things down. You find a book of necromancy in the abattoir, which is the most logical place for a book of necromancy to be.
Yeah. I did not find any. I never got into the abattoir. In my playthrough.
Yeah. So. But you also can go into the sacristy, you know, the place where all the treasures were kept, and it's been looted, but there is a ledger here and the figures don't make sense.
You can click on them and they're cooking the books.
Yeah. And very specifically, it is Brother Guy who keeps the books, and he is kind of doing razzle dazzle accounting, like he's doing double entry accounting here. And I don't know, not even me, who took whole classes on it, understands how to do that. So
you have to be in the IFT strata to recognize this, and then IFG. You went and did it then. But this is a motive.
Yes.
Right. And also the city, the Abbey's been on hard times despite of these taxes.
Yes.
They think they are in worse straits than they are because Brother Guy's fucking stealing.
Mm-hmm.
What an asshole. In retrospect, I wish I had had him executed, but I didn't.
Yeah. But also, like, we're going to find out why, like, you can do a whole bunch of stuff to, get this. This is who I had killed, is Brother Guy. The reason he was doing this was to support Jews who were who were exiled. Basically,
well, now I feel bad.
Yeah, no, because he himself, like his family was Jewish, and they were forcibly converted. So when they were doing the expulsions, he found a way to get this money and divert it elsewhere. A noble thing to do, but is causing an immense amount of heartache and tragedy for this town. Yeah.
It's I did not get any of that background.
Mm-hmm. So one of the ways you find this, there's a blind sister over in the convent garden, and she's like, there was a guy over in the herb hut who kind of ran into me, tall, no beard, soft skin. He was messing around with some bottles. It matches Guy's description, and we do this little puzzle, which is just trying to figure out which bottle he tampered with. One of them's full of money, part of where he's hiding this stuff, but you have all of these bottles, and you have to shake them to hear what's inside, and you can just get information about these different herbs. It's not accurate information, but it is accurate to what people thought these herbs did at the time.
No, and one of them has money. That doesn't convince the abbot that he did it. But it's enough for you to finger him if you'd like. Implicate. You don't finger him, you implicate him. The other scene you can do during this part is eavesdrop on confession. This is what I did during the day. I really like this scene. There's always a big line of confession after this party because everybody goes and fucks and sucks in the forest. And this feels like a very immoral thing to do.
Yep.
You send, I kept sending Casper over to light candles.
You can only do it once. Otherwise,
then I did it. Yeah. I did one, and then Casper did one to get all of the stuff. We find out a couple interesting things. Like one of the girls in town is a thief. We find out about a lot of infidelity and such. Yeah. The only thing directly related to this is that Martin also received a note. So, and the people who have done murders have received notes from a character called the thread puller, is what your character calls this. What I love about this scene is that it is actually telling you the answer. You having the idea of doing this, you have to be like, who else would do something with this information? Who knows all the town's secrets? Like, who could be a thread puller and you never suspect? It's great.
Yeah, it is the cloak provided by the structure of power. Yeah.
You can also you can do a confession at the end, and that's very sweet. It's more stuff with your background and everything. But
yeah. When you're going to leave, Amelie pulls you over to her little hole and says, like, hey, another thing here. Earlier, you should probably know this. I overheard Guy confessing about his theft to Thomas, to Father Thomas. Knowing that that if he did this, the priest could not tell the abbot about it. So like he had to confess for his soul, but needed to do it in a way that wouldn't get him in trouble. And she did this. She broke the sanctity of confession because she also has this sense of justice, right?
Yeah. She's a good egg. Yeah. So the troops arrive at the town center. The mob is gathered, demanding an answer. And as this is happening, again, I love that this town can pause from its mania for the miracle of childbirth.
No.
Agnes, the midwife, comes out and announces that Rachel's had a daughter. And upon seeing this takes the wind out of a lot of the people's sails.
Yes.
Klaus, takes his daughter, says, listen, I can't support this cause.
Yeah.
It's going to lead to the death of my daughter, like a baby, just like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people soften, say like, maybe we should let the abbot go and just get concessions. But the hardliners will not go for this.
Yeah. Peter is like, no, somebody's going to bleed tonight.
Yep.
So this is where you make the case to try and save Casper's life, saying like, hey, this is going to pop off. Like, you really don't want to be here.
Get that feeling.
Sending away. Yeah. I fail. Like, and I should have noticed something where like all of these good things were counting as demerits,
Yes.
but like, no, it would be if you were trying to convince him to leave. If he likes you, he wants to stay. He doesn't want you to be alone. It's
the scene where you try to get a dog to leave and by throwing rocks at it.
Yeah.
Except you're just throwing sausage links at it. The whole time I've been giving him attaboys. So he says it's worth saying he says he's going to leave.
Yes.
Regardless of whether you fail. It says you failed and then he says yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is foreshadowing.
Yeah.
They say, listen, time's up. Name a killer. And I say Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Here, regardless of who the killer is, they go to the miller.
Yeah.
And hide out in the mill. They're under the miller's protection. The miller goes and stands on his porch there with his gun.
Yeah.
People are right. This is incredibly tense.
Oh yeah.
And when I talk about the scene being this act being a page turner, like this was impossible to put down. It's just very good literature.
Yeah. And it's tense and it escalates and it keeps going as the people get angry and angrier that Leonard is, protecting this killer. So they think.
His wife and son leave him.
Yep.
And that's great. Because he's stuck there and he's, you'll never come back. You'll never find anyone else. Like, very awful. Eventually Lenhart shoots. And he's not trying to shoot Ulrich.
Yeah.
Ulrich is standing next to
Peter,
but hits him on accident.
Yeah.
And there's this awesome moment where he realizes, well, I've just signed my fucking death warrant. Like I made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Like, because the town is not going to stand for this.
Nope.
They burn him alive in the mill with whoever your chosen, fingery is, and Leonard gets burned alive.
Yeah. And so like, well, they're gone. What are we going to do? Let's go let these monks out of the abbey so the soldiers don't come in and, destroy this town and kill everybody in it. Yes. But when you do this,
I love the acting of this so much.
Oh, it's so good.
Peter shows up and he's just lost too much for this. He's lost too much and he's too mad. And as I said before, like revenge doesn't do what you want it to do.
No.
Even if he believed that, Martin or in your case, Guy did it, it's not enough. The Abbey has caused suffering that he's enumerated to you over dinner many times that is incalculable. It's minor sufferings and medium sufferings over decades.
Yeah.
And then Inger has to go somewhere.
And he doesn't do this with passion. Like he doesn't even like really
resignation.
Yeah. It's just like, well, this is just going to have to happen. And he just kind of slowly walks in through the open door and sets the library alight. Yep.
You see the light coming in. And then this is a minor nitpick I have to pick with this game. Andreas acts like a fucking cartoon.
He acts like Pee Wee Herman trying to save the animals from the pet store that's on fire.
Even if you didn't, because I thought this was because I chose Bookworm, and I was like, that's ludicrous. Yeah. You're choosing the thing that you like more than life. I found out that this happens regardless.
Yeah,
obviously, you run in to save the books and you get them, and there's a little bit of suicide by cop. Going on here. Andreas does not care, is in this place, this existential place, and does not feel like he has a lot of reason to live. He's directionless. He's overcome with guilt. This is all very intense. I get that.
Yeah.
It's weird to run back into a burning building twice to save books.
Yeah.
I still think that would be a weird thing to do just in your human self-preservation instinct. It has to happen for the drama of the story, but it felt weird to me.
Yes. It makes sense from the standpoint of he does not feel like he can make anything valuable on his own, right? Like he is stuck creating vanity portraits for people. But if his life can mean anything, probably and reading into this, if his life can mean anything, if he can accomplish anything, he can at least protect and preserve something greater than he could have ever made, which is going in and getting these books. Yeah.
And if that were the only thing he had going for him, this is where it, not taking into account how you're playing, kind of falls down a little bit. Even though I'm a fan of it in general, because my version of Andreas had reconnected with Klaus.
Yep.
My version of Andreas was well on his way to seeing Casper as surrogate family.
Yeah.
There was my version of Andreas would not have killed himself for books.
Right.
But he does, because the plot demands.
Yes. Yeah. And he dies. The text lays out, the council at Nuremberg, closed out his affairs, redistributed his payments and such. And that is the end of Act 2.
Kind of a gut punch. This character, he died. We still have an act left. This is Act 3, the mural. This is the other act I think has pacing problems.
You spend like the first 2/3 of it kind of learning stuff that you already knew over the course of playing the rest of the game.
It's reminding you the themes and stakes, so when it reveals what it's doing, it'll have more impact.
Mm-hmm.
It's a function of the game being as long as it is, that it kind of needs to do that. And yet it's as long as it is because of this. Yes. I end up liking some of the hominess of this part, and I like the characters. It's just, it's very hard to go from, again, like absolute page turner, just all of the perfect drama of human existence in Act 2, to slowing things down a lot.
Yes.
For this. And I think it's a little bit of a misstep. It ends up being a really good act, especially in the end, and left me with this intense feeling of warmness that I really loved.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I just feel like it could use some tightening up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's 18 years later. Magdalene is out with one of the sisters picking oak galls from around the shrine of Saint Satia.
Make ink.
Yeah, to make ink. Yeah. Kind of this older way of doing it. When Otto's son, Otz, or yes, it's got an umlausa, came, I'm going to say Otz, comes through and tells Magdalene, like, hey, your dad is asking her, he needs you to bring the notes that he made for the mural up to the rat house.
Yep. And we find a note in the sketches that we find there that's in the script, the thread puller script, just says stop.
Yeah.
We're going to find out this is relating to the mural. Somebody wants this mural not to happen. There is a lot of like flavor fluff stuff. Otz always calls you mags. You get to choose how much you want to be flirted by Otz, how receptive you are to all of that stuff. When you're playing this character, as you pick them, they are a more fun character.
Yes.
When you head up there's these boys on the council. They joke about how you don't do any work, and you're like, no, I do work. I work for my dad, or I work as a tinker, or I do housework. I chose working with my dad. And I was like, oh, I'm going to take over the print shop.
Yes.
And you have a reputation. You can either have a barbed tongue, you can be a flirt, a haggle, or a snoop. I chose a snoop because I wanted to get more info. I
thought barbs would be fun. Everything you can say is too fucking mean.
Yeah, you can be a real unlikable person if you want to.
Yeah.
Instead of just like a mildly unlikable kind of Cora Birch type. That I was kind of playing this character as.
Yeah.
And then you can choose your education, which can be a polyglot, like know a little bit of all languages. A Volksbücher, which is somebody who knows the common books or know about the Reformation. And I also chose polyglot.
Yes.
Because I want to be able to read stuff.
Yeah. Figured it'd be useful.
Yeah. There's a lot of little, these little bits though with Otz calling you mags and kind of going back and forth. There's a lot of like the consequence shift is really hard in this one. The stake shift, like it's important to the theme because one of the themes is that life goes on.
Yes.
And trying to stop this change is nothing, is foolish. So it should be that your character, like Magdalene, should have a life, and the town keeps going and endures, even if individual people die.
Right.
You slow down so fast.
Yeah.
It's like you slam on the brakes for this.
Yeah. It's disorienting. Yeah.
Yeah. The conflict of this that's setting up is that Klaus is arguing with the town council, which is Thomas, Big Jorg, and Werner, the asshole doctor, about creating this mural and how to portray the revolt. The conflict is, do we portray it as it happens? As it happens, should we find truth, or should we try to please people? Because if we portray this as too favorable or heroic or underline the wrong things, the Lord, who now controls us, now that the Abbey no longer controls us, is not going to look favorably on it.
Right.
Like, do we keep our heads down or do we rock the boat?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is very much doing commission work.
Yes.
And part of what's motivating him here, and what makes him opinionated about showing things the way that they actually happened, regardless of how much trouble it makes for him, is he feels guilty for not supporting the revolt. He had that moment where he's softened, and walked away with Magdalene, in order to save her life, but he has felt guilty about the way things have gone. He lost his friend. He lost many of his friends. There are a lot of people who are just not around anymore. There are widows who have gone on and remarried. There are kids who never met their dad.
Yep. And their dads who lost their kids. All because of the soldier. We get a little scene of it at the end of the last act where the soldiers come to the Abbey and fight. We go outside, we get a little scene with Kraft, who is Martin's son, and Father Thomas. The church foundation has cracked, but Thomas doesn't want to do anything about it because he doesn't want to dig up the bodies in the graveyard. That's not why, but that's what he says. And we end each day. This chapter, a lot of people criticize this chapter for having less gaminess to it. It's much more linear. It's not like you go and choose places to investigate and do little puzzles. You are told where to go. You go there. Sometimes you just teleport there, and you end almost every day by writing a letter.
Yes.
I'm fine with it not being gamey. I just wish, again, I think the pacing is kind of an issue.
Yeah.
You end this first day by writing a letter to Esther, the daughter of Benjamin and Rachel. She lives in Prague, and you're close friends.
So during the night, there's this loud noise, and Klaus kind of stumbles down there on the first floor. He is injured and bleeding from the head. Somebody had broken in and bashed him.
Yep. I hit him in the head. So you go get the doctor, and the council gathers in the bedroom here. He's survived, but the doctor pulls you aside and says, you're going to have to call off the mural. And even though he's alive, this is an injury that will not get better.
Yeah.
He will, it's weeks or months, he will die.
Yeah.
It damaged his brain.
Right.
Magdalene says, I can do the mural. And you have to convince everybody.
Yeah.
That you're the person to do it. The rest of the town council agrees, even though Stoltz says you should just be at home taking care of your dad.
He seems real motivated to keep this from happening. Yeah. And just, it's a red herring, the red herring of the jerk.
Yes.
Sometimes a jerk can just be a jerk. Yeah. So the plan, Klaus's idea was to kind of make this a triptych, have these different panels on the wall that will show the complete history of Tassing from its earliest days up to the revolt. And so we need to start in the pagan era. And because all these books are gone, we need to write to the former librarian, Mother Illuminata, to see what she might know about. And we get her response, we get it a couple of weeks later, is like, oh yeah, no, the Kreitzer family might have passed down some stories. And they're also, just people around who kind of like hew to the old ways, who can give you some flavor on that.
Yeah. There's that book that Martin stole. There's books that Andreas saved, etc. You go and talk to Il Peter. He talks about things that predate the Romans. Percha and the Wild Hunt, keeping the bad spirits at bay. This great chieftain Ratus, who is a stand-in for the saint.
Yes.
We find out about this. He saved an injured wolf. Percha saw this, and she had the wolf lead him to a sacred spring. Yeah. Very similar to all the saint stories we've heard.
Yeah. We can go talk to Brigitte, the enemy of Goku.
Yes.
No, Brigitte. She's Martin's wife. Martin, quote, Martin can still be alive. I don't know what happens if Martin's dead.
She's still around.
Okay.
And because you're not Andreas, she's not mad at you.
Right.
It would have been real awkward. She reveals Martin left the book behind when he ran off that first time when he left. He knew he couldn't sell it. It was too rare. She kept it in a drawer. You can get it, but you can't read it because your Latin's not strong enough. It's important to note, going back to your skill things, none of them were like no Latin.
Right.
It is important to the mystery that you cannot read this book. Your choices, you're not making a failure choice not getting this.
Right.
The story will dole out at the pace it wants to dole out.
It gives you a quest that you can't complete. Like it'll say like the names of all these people, but like everybody's got their own stuff going on. Like anybody who could, they either can't do it entirely or they're too busy doing their own thing.
Yeah. And just another example of this game doing interesting things with game design, with giving you quests that you cannot succeed at.
Yes.
You can go and talk to Black Till. There he points you towards the salt mine. The pagans of ancient Tassing dug up the mines, and the Romans just took it over. Like it predated the Romans. There's this great, you can go to Smokey's hut. I'm glad you did this. And talk to Vaxclav. And he's there, and he immediately, like, coffee shop philosophizes to you about Gnosticism. How important it is to disbelieve in transubstantiation. I love this, like Smokey's just being like, I'm not listening to this.
Nope, I'm not hearing it.
Yeah. And at one point he's like, you're going to get yourself killed. My Voxlov definitely did get crucified.
Yeah.
For the shit. Burned alive.
So he can reform and not be burned at the stake if you did not kill Prior Ferenc. Prior Ferenc will become an inquisitor, but he's a compassionate one, relatively. And he will, instead of burning him at the stake, convert him, is my understanding
at the
of
stake
this.
Or just does he convert him or convert him?
Yeah. No, I was real cool with hearing this because I was like, yeah, man, this mystical shit's real neat.
It's interesting.
But I also wanted to say, like, hey, man, you can't be a Romani and a heretic. Are you trying to get killed?
Each of those strikes is worth 3 strikes in this world.
Yeah,
like it's you shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
You're talking to Smokey. Smokey tells you another version of the town's founding.
Yeah,
where Mars and the Roman nymph Tassering had sex in the spring, and it made the valley fertile.
Yeah.
Tassing is more Roman than Bavarian. Everything is built on Roman stone.
Yeah. There. So that's another thing you could choose to emphasize. Or you can head down to the mines. There are a couple of ways to get down there. Down the shaft. I was a tinker, so I just rigged up a rope.
I had to go and do a little chore for the twins. There's 2 prankster twins, and they were gathering frogs because they were going to make a second plague of frogs. They had stolen the key from Father Thomas. I had to go put it back.
Okay.
And doing that favor for them, they showed me how to get down here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Regardless of what you get down there, we find this map carved into the salt. And it keeps mentioning this thing called a Mithraeum.
Yeah.
Somewhere in town, but you don't know that word.
Right. Mithraeum would be a temple to Mithras, cults, Roman cult. Yeah.
And then there's one of the more nakedly video gamey things you do in this that I'm pretty bummed out by.
Yeah.
As you walk along these long paths slowly collecting pottery shards and then put them together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yep. This Hotel Dusk shit. Yeah.
I never want to be handed a busy board.
Yeah.
In a video game ever again. I really wish that I would eliminate tasks in video games. I would like a puzzle or a challenge. Just like, don't give me this shit.
It's just very funny. I would eliminate tasks. Sentences are good.
Yeah. I 100% would. I hate this stuff. It's such a, like, this is already such a slow act, and just taking this time to do this, and the UI and interface for it is bad.
Yeah.
Somebody on the Slack pointed this out. I'm sorry for not being able to give credit, but they're like, why isn't there a fucking undo button? And I'm like, yeah, because the way you do this is you position the shards, then you rotate them.
Yeah.
Then you rotate, then you either click them into place or you go back and can move them again, but you always go through those 2 steps of conservation or confirmation. It's really clumsy and it's not a hard jigsaw puzzle. I don't know what that would be, but this isn't that.
Nope.
It's man, is this a waste of time? I really wish it. I love this game. Like, I love this game. It's one of my favorite games I played in a while. I think that this kind of thing just stands out really heavy because it's so pointless to be in here, you know?
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, the counter would be, oh, but it's such a small part of what you do. And my counter to that would be, cut that skin tag off, bro.
Yeah. Skin tags aren't great. And it's a small part, but it's many small parts that contribute to this incredible break slamming pacing thing in this. I am trying to figure out this mystery. And I know I say this all the time on the show. You have successfully hooked me into your mystery and momentum. Why are you doing so many things to rob this of momentum? You know, it is hard to get, I think, at least to get me, but to get a player on board and have that head of steam where it's like, I want to see how this ends. I'm so fucking invested. And then just to like, slow down there, cowboy. Like, why? You know?
No.
I just, and it's not, all of the stuff is not that. Some of it's for flavor and everything. This is just the task. Yeah. It's a busy board. You put the busy board together and you see a pre-Roman myth. This human sacrifice to Perchta, the spirits coming to feast on the sacrifice.
Right. So kind of a grisly old customs. When we go to climb back up the rope, somebody drops a rock. You know, it's pretty threatening gesture, trying to kill you by crushing your noggin. But all we can see is a silhouette. It's clear somebody's following us.
Yep. Somebody the same person who maybe hit our dad in the head.
Yes.
You go back to the Wrath House to work on the mural. Oz comes by and you choose your first panel. These are your choices. You're making this act. I chose to show the way that the farmers lived.
Same. Yeah.
Because I wanted to show that connection.
Yes.
To current people. But you can show a pagan rite. You can show a lot of stuff here.
Yeah. I also did the farmers because I just wanted to show the truth. Like, and that has been life always. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then we have to learn about the history of the Abbey. Next, the Abbey came along. You write letters to Matthew and Esther, then go to bed. And a couple weeks later, Matthew writes back, telling you that the Christians settled in the valley after the Romans left. The noblewoman of the Curacao family founded the Abbey on Roman ruins.
Right.
About 2 centuries ago, it went from being run by nuns to being run by the brothers, likely to remain in the Pope's favor as double abbeys became forbidden.
Yeah. Doubles are not safest. Double abbey being like we've got brothers Co-ed. And sisters. Yeah.
Yeah. Co-ed abbeys.
Yeah. So your father, all this time later, he's in bed and his condition is getting worse. His vision is failing him. Sometimes you can't understand him because his words are slurring. It is a slow death to brain damage. But Dr. Stoltz, the person who is taking care of him, hasn't been by today because he's out drinking himself stupid. He's, laying down in his own vomit in the bakery, and you've got to go find somebody to drag him home. I asked Big Yorg to do it because Big Yorg big.
I did not do this. No, I did not go find him. So I didn't know what he was up to. Yeah. You talk to Father Thomas, and he brings up sometimes that there's actually, he says there's a third saint in Tassing. The Virgin Mary appeared here as well to reveal the labyrinth. And this led to the founding of the church. The church is the Church of Mary of the Labyrinth.
Right.
And you can talk to Elsa up at the mill. This is the wife of the miller. Yeah. Here, and her son. And she talks about her family who came here, the Caviezel's. Who were Bavarians before the Romans came. They were chased out of Tassing, but came back to resettle.
Yeah. So you can go to the convent to learn about this place directly. You can't get into the monastery side just yet because it is just crumbling ruins. But you talk to Sister Gertrude, your friend, and, you find out that the sisters, they're no longer Benedictine. They have converted to be the Poor Clares, not making anything, not selling anything, but living entirely on alms.
Yes. You can then pretend to be interested in joining to get guided around. Kind of look around this. This seems like it's going to be so fun. That you're Agent 47 explaining a house or something. I was shocked by how not fun this scene was. It's pretty bland. It's real. It's the bad side of You're Loving This Cole, of just walking from place to place and having characters explain stuff.
They're not even talking, like they don't even really do any explanation. It's just like you go and talk to somebody and it's like, oh yeah, there's ghosts. We saw a ghost here.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And well, they're saying like this is this room; it's used for this purpose.
Yeah,
they're explaining the layout of this thing that you've been in for 3 acts of the game.
Yeah, this is the food cookatorium. It's where we cook food.
You'll never guess what we do there.
Yeah,
like Latin is not that hard. You just add "ium" to the end of things, and that's what happens there. This is the roomium. It's a place where it's a room. I was frustrated by this a little bit. Sister Benedicta also knows about the ghost. She found a book of an old Christian legend in the workshop. It has the tale of this Roman commander, Martorius, which is another retelling of St. Moritz. Again, it's telling us stuff we already know, underlining themes.
Yes. The art studio has laid defunct, again, because they are not making or selling anything, but there is a scrap from a manuscript showing the Mithrim in Tassing, showing it being destroyed by this flood. And there is a note describing the illustration in the same hand as the thread puller notes. Whoever made this manuscript was the person who wrote the notes.
Yep. A mural in the chapel depicts the oldest days of the abbey. Its use as an abbey predates the Holy Roman Empire. Even then, history goes back further.
Yeah.
You go into the ruined monastery part and climb around to get to the chapter house, and you see this giant mural. They had this Dance of Death mural, which is a real thing. It's a thing with skeletons boogieing with people from all stations of life to show that all people of life die.
Yes,
remember it's a real form of art. Yeah. But it's been defaced with new figures. Then these figures are representative of people who have died. I really love Martin. Since I killed him, he's died, and he's betrayed by one person with 2 heads.
That's good.
To show his Tamzarianness. Once you know who did this, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know that. But we find somebody's been following us around in here, but we don't do anything with that mystery. We just leave and we're like, better go check out the Wrath House. Like your character is constantly being stalked and almost killed and being like, well, better go paint. It's really weird. The urgency, how it's sprinkled through this act.
Yeah. So we go back to the Wrath House, and Stoltz, the doctor, walks in, wants to know what the plans are for this. And I say like, oh, I'm going to paint the Bavarian settlement of the town, just what was here before the Romans were.
Yeah, I think I painted the abbey.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
The last part of the mural is going to be about the revolt. So we write to the old archdeacon, the one who did the trial, back in Act 1, about these notes, and we reply to Esther. And we go to bed. There's a note on the bed covers that just says stop. Again. Yeah. They're weak now, and there's this ticking clock. You are trying to show your dad the mural before he dies. You can lie and say you're trying to get done by Christmas. I think that's a sweet lie.
Yes.
You cannot admit to yourself that you're trying to do it for your dad before he dies.
Right.
Weeks pass. Now it's mid-December. You only get 1 letter back because of the winter snows.
Yes.
This is from the archdeacon. It's not very helpful.
No.
There. Talks about Andreas, kind of reminds you of his existence, and just explains stuff you mostly know.
Yeah. And then the clock advances to Christmas Eve. It is 1 day before your kind of self-imposed deadline on this. And we get a few leads about who to talk to about the night of the uprising. There are people, who are still around, who are there. Clara saw it. Otz's mom obviously has her own account. Wojslav and Matilda, who are no longer, part of the order. Like they're just living in town. There's Agnes, the midwife, and you don't find an awful lot of value in this. Like Agnes and the wives, just like don't have anything good to say about it. Like it was an awful lot of struggle.
They're
mad.
Andreas specifically.
Yeah.
They blame him.
Yes. Clara and Gret are a little bit softer on it, but like it's still a discussion. Like how much of this, like how much was Andreas culpable for this?
Yeah, it's very funny. Like I was just fucking here. You put me in charge. There's a scene you can do before this. Did you get the bar fight at the inn?
No.
Scene. You can do that as well here. That might have been in Act 2. I apologize for forgetting that. It's a cool scene. You can go and talk to people in the bar and learn to play a card game, which I just wanted to note because it's keeping Obsidian's "we put the worst card game you've ever played" in our games thing. This one's a historical card game, but it's real bad.
Oh yeah.
You can play with a guy and call it, and a lot of people get into a big bar fight. there. That was in the last act. I apologize for forgetting it. I was getting confused with the Christmas scene.
Yes. Yeah. You can go talk to the people at the inn. They're getting ready for the Christmas festivities, and you're cutting out some Christmas cookies, and you've got to get a variety of shapes, but also maximize the amount of cookies that you should get out of the sheet of dough.
Yep. Here's a ball. You can bounce it if you wish. The people here describe how Andreas tried to help things, and says like the soldiers were awful about this, but Andreas, my memory is he tried to help. And it's worth noting, Volkoslas is here. I never know if I'm pronouncing that correct. But he's here. He used to be a brother, and he's no longer. He's quit to join the secular life and marry the person he's been porking.
Oh yeah. The one that he tried to get you to protect. No, they're good. Matilda. Like they're cooks. Wojslav and Matilda are cooks. Yeah.
Yep. And now they're cooks for the inn. And they say, Andreas tried to help because he was a friend to the Abbey.
Mm-hmm.
You make those cookies there, and you get to watch this ritual they have, the perchin loaf there, which is, and then go to the inn to eat.
Yeah.
There.
It's a real sweet scene. Big Jorg gets up and gives the speech. Like the council asks him to do it because he's the most likable. And he just gives a very simple speech about this has been an incredibly hard year, but think about all the good things we still have. Right.
Yep. It just comes natural to him.
Yeah.
You go around and have conversations with all these different people in the town. And the last thing you can do is you can talk to Big Jorg. And talk about how how you plan to depict the revolt.
Yeah.
And I chose to have Otto giving his speech with the soldiers in the background. Again, always trying to highlight the peasants if I can.
Yes.
And I wanted to pay tribute to my buddy.
Yeah.
This game, this is a very minor nitpick, but I feel bad if I didn't say it. As you go through and talk to everybody, you cannot end the scene until you talk to the traveling minstrels.
Right.
When video games put a song in their game, they get really proud of it.
Yep.
And they will not do anything that allows you to not hear it.
Yeah.
I knew it was just going to be some madrigal, and I didn't want to hear it, and I couldn't not hear it.
They all sound very much the same to me. Yes.
The door won't open until they sing their song. It drove me nuts. But now things pick up. Now we're in the good part of Act 3. That last part we just did took a long time. It did. But now we're in the end game.
Yeah. Things are going to be on rails here. So as you're heading back to check on your dad, the anchoress Amelie speaks to us and is like, hey, what's going on? I just love hearing the Christmas celebrations, but we're interrupted. We see this cloaked, bearded guy running into town. This is obviously the person who's been following us, and we go and check on Klaus to see if he's still alive.
Our door is open.
Yeah,
he's clearly in there. It's spooky. He says, "Listen, I'm not going to make it to see this finished mural." And it's very heartwarming, heart-wrenching. This is very sad.
Yeah.
He's been proud of you every day of your life. You never need to prove anything to him. He asked for something to eat. You go to get him some soup. The camera stays with him, and then the door shuts. The intruder was hiding behind the door.
Yeah.
Great little reveal for the level of fidelity this game has. It's really good.
Yeah, it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up because you think something's terrible is going to happen. All of the all of the language of fiction is telling you this is bad, but he doesn't do anything. He approaches, tells Klaus, "I'm sorry." He failed. He thought that he could figure this stuff out, and his friend has met this terrible fate. He's about he's definitely going to die, and it haunts him along with everyone in the dance of death.
Yes. Magdalene walks in and drops the soup in shock. We still think this is possibly a murderer, but he takes off his hood, and this is Andreas.
Yeah.
He survived. He's been living in the woods and underground for 18 years, eating bread scraps. I liked this twist when it happened. I was delighted.
Yeah.
I was into it, and I like how this game ends. It's a little silly.
It's a little silly.
It's a little silly though, right? Yeah. We should be able to look at a little silly at work, right? It's a little silly.
And what did you do for water? I sucked moist rags.
Yeah. For how long? 18 years. It's a little silly, and it also when I think about the motivation for Andreas running into the burning building, the only way I square that circle is a suicide by cop kind of thing.
Yes.
That doesn't really play very well with this.
Mm-hmm.
With this looking for repentance. Like, yes, near-death experience, and maybe now he wants to, do this, but I didn't really believe that he would do it in the first place. So the idea that his motivation for that I could buy is undone is a little bit of a bad feel. This is all very minor. I know I'm complaining a lot during this act. I think this act has room for improvement. Yeah. A lot of the things about this I very much love. Yeah. And I really love where it ends up, but this did feel a little silly to me.
Yeah.
Not so much here where it's revealed where it's great, but as he starts talking about the logistics of him being a sewer goblin for 18 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, living fully traumatized, right?
Yeah.
Like for my version of this, Caspar, because he liked me, he pulled me out of this and then went back in. And details later, like, kind of will make it unclear whether Caspar did this of his own volition, went back in, or if Andreas told him to do it. Yeah.
My version, I didn't tell him to do it. My guy tried to stop him, but couldn't talk because of smoke inhalation.
Yeah.
He's been following you, but he's not been trying to kill you. He's been trying to keep you safe. He accidentally kicked that rock onto your head or towards your head.
I can see how that would be misconstrued.
Yeah, clumsy. And he talks about the notes. We're back on the trail of the thread puller. The notes are for somebody who doesn't want Tassing's true history to be told.
Yes.
Because it's at odd with these official accounts.
Yeah.
It's been covered bit by bit, layer by layer, until it can no longer be seen. Pentiment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He lays out the details that he's found. This thread pillar, lives under the ground, like lives in the aqueduct. And that is how they have been getting around. It connects to more things than you would think, right?
Yeah. There's a place I can't get to. He probably lives there.
Yes. Yeah.
We can get there. And this is where he starts explaining his life. Like, hast thou ever heard of Ninja Turtles? I am unto thee. And, you go to the Wrath house, the Wrath Skeller's been built, to get in, and we find, as we go into the ruins, we find this carving on a brick that says Cornelius goes to the bath today and completes the 6th step in the Mithraeum.
Yeah.
This is old ancient Roman stuff.
Yeah. I love this. Like, as you're reading this, Andreas just slams through the wall with a pickaxe, and Magdalen's like, "Hey, warn a girl next time." Yeah. He's like, "Sorry, it's been a while since I've been around people." Yeah.
You don't get this from meeting. You can talk to the baker and learn that they drop a hint about this, where they're like, "Yeah, we've been trying to learn how to bake, and we have all this bread that didn't work, and we kept discarding it." This is what we find out he's been eating, is these discredited breads.
I've got lots of things to say about rowboats. So we're in the aqueduct. Specifically, we're in the place where, if you told Caspar to squeeze through, this is where he was. It was the place that felt wrong. And we are in this thing, the hypocaust, beneath the Roman baths. This kind of the chamber under the water where they would light fires in order to warm it, so people could take these comforting baths.
Yeah. And we take control of Andreas. He walks ahead, and he sees the ghost of the dead. People, and it's his guild speaking. This is a well-worn narrative and video game trick. It works because I'm invested in these characters, and I care about Andreas, even though it is a little silly. Like, Caspar shows up and says, "Why did you send me back into the flames?" The way I read this was that he didn't send him back into the flames. This is just him being guilty, the same way he could be guilty when he's talking to his son.
Yes. Yeah. So you reach this glowing red door, and you step out into the ideal city. You're on Beatrice's balcony, except the place is in flames. And there is a kaiju of St. Grobian in the background, pounding the buildings.
My absolute favorite kaiju. It's great. It's real fun to watch. You go to leave, and you have to go through the labyrinth. And as you're doing this, Sabine speaks to you and tells you to forgive yourself. There's still time for you, and there's time for Magdalene. Basically. Caspar, and it's just happening, the maze is changing to try to thwart you from getting out.
Yeah.
Casper appears and says you need to get back to Magdalene, and August appears and speaks to you for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just it's not your fault. Like, you've had all this loss and everything. Some of these things have just happened to you. It's time for you to forgive yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
And this helps Andreas get control over the maze, kind of assert his control over it. And, you know, the frame around this labyrinth flies away. And now we're on the painting from the church.
But it's in a different style.
Yes, I love it so much. Yeah, it's a Renaissance style. It's a
Renaissance style. Yeah, it's really good. It doesn't look like a woodcut or an illustrated illuminated manuscript. It's Beatrice as Mary holding the labyrinth in this, you know, break in style.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah. And she says, you know, there are layers to everything. Over time's foundations become buried. We can no longer recall how we got here, no longer recall what came before. There was not always a lady to watch over the labyrinth, but there was a labyrinth.
Yeah.
And we get to where the labyrinth, like, imagery came from here. Like, it wasn't Mary. It was the actual bathhouse. Although for all the world, I love the sleight of hand they do on this. You walk in and you see Amelie there on the floor in this very well-preserved Roman bathhouse holding onto the head of a Mars statue. And she says, "Yes, it is my spirit. I have brought you here to this place. You think that you're still in a realm because you had been in a realm." And then Magdalene walks in.
Yeah.
It's just like, what do you mean? We're physically here.
Yeah, it's really good.
But Amelie is outside of her cell. Yeah.
Yeah. And she says the Lord calls her to this place through the door between life and death. She was digging a grave. She descends through her grave. She thinks she's in a realm, which I love. Yeah. Here the Lord tells me which messages I must bear and to whom. Her bone and joint affliction is so painful, but she can bend her body to his will to do it.
Yeah.
And Andreas realizes who she is. Her font turns purple.
Yeah.
She's the person who's been writing the letters.
Mm-hmm.
The abbey burned down. She couldn't save anyone. She just took a book and a bolt of cloth from this. And she talks about she didn't know why she survived, but Father Thomas manipulated her by giving her this new purpose. Not her words, manipulated, but that's what's happening.
Yeah, yeah. Saying like, oh, I was given something new, told what to do. And the thread puller is Father Thomas, the one person who would have all of this information. Yes. And you tell her hey, this has led to actual deaths. Like, you need to understand the reality of this. And she grabs her head and starts shaking it like, hey, this can't be true. And then she falls over and passes out as Father Thomas enters.
Yeah. He says she's innocent. She had no part in it. She just wrote the notes. She didn't know what they meant. And at this point, you're confronting the killer. You're doing your parlor speech, basically. Yes. Andreas says, like, what was the point of this? And Thomas points all around at the baths. St. Moritz and St. Cedia are on the walls, but are as Roman figures, Mars and Diana. This thing that the game's been telling us the whole game.
Yeah.
That these legends are not as people interpret them. They had an original form. The legend of St. Moritz already existed. When the settlers came, they mistook the statue as being his. So they turned these Roman gods into saints.
Right. And then we go through all the different killings. The Historia Taciae was really the only account that existed that showed this through line, that showed like, hey, these saints, like, they may have existed elsewhere, but got nothing to do with Tassaring, right?
Yes.
And like, we couldn't have had that. So Thomas had killed Father Matthias, as the prior abbot. When he got a hold of the book. And just, he found out about this. Like, this was a huge crisis of faith for Thomas because he heard, like, oh, Moritz never came to Tassing. And this whole place was built on a lie. Yeah.
He poisoned them. So he's talking about he's protecting, these are his motivations. He is preserving the lie because the lie will save people's souls. That's the same reason he killed the noble, the visiting noble. Yep. He killed Otto to prevent him from showing the miracle that he found. What he found was he was working on the foundation of the Rathaus and found this head. Because he's illiterate, he thought it was St. Moritz, even though it says in Latin that it's Mars.
Yes.
Mars Pater. there.
So
and
that was the sign he was going to show. He was going to present it, like when we were digging the foundation for this thing that is, the monument to our self-rule, or at least the amount of self-rule that the nobles gave us. Here we have this, coincidence of God's favor, the missing head of the statue of our patron saint. And people who could read, if he showed it to them, this would have revealed the lie.
Yeah, revealed the lie and revealed, would have also undermined Otto's thing and possibly been like, oh, Mars has favored us. Mm-hmm. He tried to kill Klaus. He just didn't want to scare him. He didn't try to kill him.
Yeah.
He went in to bust up his shop and Klaus walked in on him. So he hit him in the head. But it's because of the mural. Klaus would eventually find these ties to it and also would show things. He's Father Thomas has been very vocal about not showing the revolt in a favorable light for the optics.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want this truth to come out, and he doesn't want the mural to show that. He's been a partisan about it.
He's a partisan because he wants to maintain the primacy of the church, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can ask him, you can say, do you have so little faith in the people for this? And he just says, like, I have faith in God. Like, I don't, basically saying no.
Yeah.
I don't think the people can be okay with this and hold these two truths in their head at once.
Yeah.
Which that kind of condescension and patronization is, or patroningness is also with the theme of this with the rebellion and the self-governance, right?
Yes.
Like it is an angle of the church or power in general having dominion over these people and talking down to them.
Yeah.
They can't know this. They're not good enough. They can't hunt for herbs in the forest. They don't get to. Yeah. It's not for them.
And if this is revealed to be a lie, like, some people, like many of them probably would be able to continue going on. Like, okay, well, we've always been around. We didn't need this hand, who's that belong to?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess there's this, rando hand. It's probably Mars's hand. If you hold it and press it hard, it shoots fire.
Yes.
They never actually figured out the key activation word or attuned to it. But if they had, it would they would have a powerful artifact that they could fight off.
Oh yeah,
any number of visiting nobles.
You use it 2 times per day. Yeah. It's but like this would lead to other questions. It would be this suckering root that would eventually, reach into the foundation and crack it. Right. Yes. Not just for the church, but also, like with feudalism
faith in general.
Faith in general, and also the idea of like divine right of kings. What will make anybody better than anybody else? If it is not, grace handed down, from God to a representative, somebody that was chosen by virtue of their station of birth, right? Like he is a zealot insofar as he believes he wants to protect us even from this small of a thing, seeing it as a cascading threat to power.
In a literal sense, he is a conservative.
Yes.
Like he wants to maintain the old power structures, and he strongly believes in hierarchy of power, even if it is through a lens of faith.
Yes.
And he's wrong. And him trying to maintain that has caused a lot of suffering.
Yes.
Some of it he intended, a lot of it he didn't. He wasn't trying to kill Klaus. He liked Klaus. But once you start this kind of slippery slope of being scared of the future and trying to stop it from coming, you will do more harm than good in that pursuit. It is an impossible thing to try, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
This is a fairly politically radical game. For being set in the 1500s. He says he won't try to kill you and has no ability to. Yeah. But he is going to destroy this place so nobody can ever find it. And he starts tackling this pillar.
Yeah.
To collapse the church on him.
It's like, hey, stop it. Like, we're right under the church. This thing's going to go, like, you're going to destroy it. And he says churches can be rebuilt more easily than faith.
Yep. Take this mystic and get out of here. Take Amelie and leave so you don't die.
Yeah.
And again, in case we didn't put this together, the reason why he knew the motivations that he could feed all these respective murderers is because he's the confessor.
Yes.
So, he would find out that, this person had wronged this person and just planted those seeds. I just want to underline that for anybody doing this as a service.
Yes. Yeah. And then he pulls an opposite of Samson.
Yep.
Like he topples the pillars. And I always forget if Sampo is trying to save the temple or bring it down.
Who knows with that guy?
It's a Samson-y thing he does. But Andreas grabs Amelie and them and Magdalene leave as the ceiling falls in and Thomas is crushed by the very church he was trying to preserve.
Yep. Andreas is like, I don't know if he was right, whether we should do this.
Yeah.
It's possible that he did horrible things, but he might have been, done the wrong things for the right end. Will
this destroy the town that Andreas has adopted and come to love? Right? Like, do we preserve the lie in order to protect these people and their livelihoods? Or do we hope that the truth being exposed will serve a greater good and that this place will not dry up like a puddle?
Yeah. And this has echoes with a lot of things that have been told you before, especially in your mind palace, about the difference, what is truth?
Yeah. Truth versus wisdom versus knowledge. Yeah.
Exactly. You get home and Klaus asks what happened. And as you're telling him he dies, I love that your last word to him is like the middle of a sentence about being in an aqueduct. It's very well observed, that the death does not come with a very obvious point of no return.
Yeah, no, just his hand slips out of hers just in the middle of that. Yeah.
It's very tragic, heartrending moment.
Yeah.
So then time advances quickly to April 15th, past Christmas. Magdalene finishes reading a letter sent from Esther. Everything is packed up. She's moving to Prague.
Yes.
To be with her and her doctor husband.
Yeah. And you walk through the town, talking to people, and they're bidding you farewell. You're headed to the mill where the wagon that you're that you're hitching a ride with is for your send off. And Andreas is up here, like he's cleaned up and is integrating into the community.
Yeah. Anna says, "Hey, I thought you were doing a mural. Why'd you leave one section blank?" And she says, "That's for the future."
Yeah.
And then after that, then it ends. There's time for one more thing to happen in this town. And then that's it. It only has so many equipment slots. Andreas is staying behind. He's adopted this town. This is going to be his life. He's going to teach the children to draw. There are a bunch of children drawing on the windmill, and he goes up there to teach them. And the windmill blades pass by as the drawings get bigger and bigger and then the people disappear. It's a very beautiful shot.
Oh man, goosebumps on that. I love it.
Great. Yeah. Missed it up. Really, really good. And the camera pulls out from the manuscript. The manuscript is being written by Emily there. And this is done in like a Unity engine realistic way.
It's a little jarring.
It looks like Grimrock. It doesn't look like but it's realistic. It doesn't look like an illuminated manuscript again.
Yeah.
It's like the beginning of Inscription, actually. How that plays with things.
Yeah.
And then because it's a game made by Josh Sawyer, you get ending slides. It's a close-up of various parts of the mural that kind of show you choices you made here,
including what you decided to literally portray as you were putting this together. But then it casts over the final wall. Andreas worked on this, showing like family trees of the people from the town, and also showing us some of the fates, like if Václav gets burned to the stake, it'll be shown here. If Ursula got burned, she'll be up there with him.
Yep. Glad I stopped talking to Ursula.
Did you encourage the blacksmith? Did you encourage Andreas to go to go and
the woman he saw in town that one time? Yeah. And he got married. Talking to them later and then being like, "I thank God he told me to do that." Like,
yeah. But like here, it'll show like they had like 20 kids.
Yeah. They got to it. They made up for lost time, and all you did was hang out like a Ninja Turtle and listen to it happening in the aqueducts. It's an amazing video game.
I love it.
That is the end of it. It's really well written. For me, the thing that is remarkable about this, and this is something that is a claim that I feel like is made about a lot of media, but I don't find it done as well, is that it transcends interest to find humanity. And what I mean by that is I have no particular interest in this time period above just like the normal interest you have in all time periods.
Yes.
Right. Like
people live there, like the choices, the conditions under which they lived are interesting. Yeah.
Yes. But when you say something like, I'm not interested in this time period, it makes you sound like a caveman because like obviously interesting things happen then. But then you think, interesting things happen all the time. You know, you're not expected to just have working knowledge of the entirety of human history. Right. So this was not an era that I specifically cared about. It's not, it's a very beautiful game. I've always thought illuminated manuscripts looked neat, but I never appreciated them like particularly artistically. You know, this game broke through that though by having a story where the threads of it stretch into so many different aspects of humanity. There, and so much resonance with when it wasn't with a couple of weird pacing bits and some busy boards. When it wasn't resonant with the now, it was interesting with the then, and it got them mixed perfectly. I was able to feel a lot for this. This was able to get through my ribs and get to my heart fairly easily, because the things it's about are basic universal truths that you don't get video games about very much. You know, and it doesn't have that feeling that I get sometimes that I got, again, just by point of comparison, I got a lot from Norco, which is of the themelet, of like the thing that the game wants to explore but will not fully commit to. I feel like the themes that this game wants to explore, it does fully commit to.
If there's anything this game has, it is full commitment.
Yes. You know, there's nothing that feels underexplored or like, we just feel like we should have a little bit of this in there. Who cares if it's messy? You know, it doesn't feel like that. Like it is a closer to perfection, like product than that. And I love that. Like and it makes it stand above like a lot of that stuff to me. It's very good.
It's it's funny because if I say what I really feel about this, if I say this is a remarkably,
you'll go to
jail. They come and take me away. Like it'll be really, really bad. My family will get in trouble. No, but if you know the word that comes to mind for me is this is an incredibly warm game. You know, and we can talk about like, oh, it's depicting community. Like the wrong thing to take away would be like, oh, this makes living around a monastery seem real cool. No, what you don't want to live in this. You want to live in a community where people know names, you know, like that's the thing there. But it goes beyond that. And when I say like, oh yes, this is an incredibly warm game, it doesn't entirely get at what I mean, because somebody will come along and say like, oh, warm, so like cozy or wholesome or any number of these kind of watchwords that are kind of in fashion right now, right? This
it avoids all of that.
It does so much, breaching kind of a more meaningful, like just full on compassion and interest in the humanity of the subjects that are kind of portrayed here, and getting at that, that universality. It's just a more complex carb, I would say, and, shows the work and makes you work for it, and is, really, really rewarding, because it did so.
It's a more complicated carb, but it's also a fuller meal.
Yes.
You don't have to spend as much time with this imagining or rounding. I feel like this for the warmth. When I talk about a vibes-based kind of coziness, a lot of times the actual text of the game is not doing as much to communicate something as just an image or music, which can feel like shorthand.
Yes.
That stuff's obviously very important, but porque no los tres? Why not make a unified piece of art that isn't just like, hey, this looks a little bit like a community, but we're not going to portray it or do anything with that theme. A lot of people will talk about towns in video games as places, and creating a strong sense of place, creating a town is a cool thing that a video game can do, that video games are better suited to do than other media. However, it's not a light task.
No,
it's not as easy as, I mean, I guess it is, because for a lot of people it works out. People say the same things about that I feel about this, about like Colm in Final Fantasy VII. When I say like a vibe thing, that's what I'm talking about. Like that town's bullshit. It has thatched huts and like music that feels cozy. That's all it's doing.
It's literally called Calm.
That's literally all it's doing. And if that's enough for you, go with God. Right. Like if that gives you that feeling, there is a way to get that feeling that I think is a lot less effort and a lot less overreading on your part or rounding on your part. And it's hard. It's super hard to do. And this game did it.
It did. And also it enters this kind of realm of novelistic games along with like Pathologic, Torment, and Disco Elysium, right?
It does in a really different way.
Yes.
Out of all those games, it is the least mechanical.
Yes.
By an absolute fucking mile.
Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite game that is the least gamey.
Yes.
Like if you took those two axes, like as I get older, I get way less interested in that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I am less interested in a walking sim. I am way less interested in a Shenmue, wake up every day, talk to everybody in town game. I think those suck. The least interesting person in this game is more interesting than the most interesting person in Shenmue by 1,000 years, whatever intersticules, whatever unit of measurement is for interest. Like compare this to the old lady who's just like, the fish aren't biting today. Like these are characters. It's well-rounded. And you can say like, oh, that game came out in 1998 and this came out in 2023. When did writing come out?
Yeah.
When did characters come out?
Yeah.
Like there's no excuse to be that shallow.
Yeah.
And this game doesn't let itself off the hook.
Nope.
It doesn't take those shortcuts. And I really love it for that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do this as a backdoor way to talk shit about games I don't like. I find it useful when I think about this game
to
that
find a positive example, right? You don't just want to like be poking holes in shit. You want to say like more like this.
Yeah, well, I want more things like this, and I want in my own like self journey to think this is a game set in a time period I don't particularly care about. That is very slowly paced and is so mechanics light as to be almost nothing. Like, why did I love it so much? What is the difference between it and games that share all three of those traits? Why did I like this so much more than I like Night in the Woods? Like this wouldn't exist without Night in the Woods.
Nope.
It's a stated inspiration, but I think this is a lot better.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot better than that. And I think it's a lot better than your Shenmues or your like Oxenfree is kind of the same thing. I'm trying to think of more games that are just go talk to everybody in town. Once a day games, but it's a really good example of that. So if you're anything like me and those aren't good to you, I think you can find a lot to like about this.
Yeah.
I think that adding a mechanical side to those games makes them stronger.
Yes.
I think that Disco Elysium and Planescape Torment are stronger games than this because of that. Largely, like the theming is equally strong in a lot of ways. Adding that investment and that mechanical edge makes a stronger experience overall for me.
Yeah.
But it's not night and day.
Yeah.
This is as high as you can get without actually making it more of a video game for me. So
I adore it. I really don't know that I have more to say other than this. It feels like a very worthy episode 400.
Yeah. Super good game. Recommended. It's like dirt cheap. It's not super short or anything like that. It's probably pretty replayable. Like choosing different avenues would be interesting. Even knowing where they come, like it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah. What should people do if they have thoughts about Pentiment or other games?
Yeah. So I believe by the time you hear this, the deadline will have passed to talk about this month's games. Yes. But if you have thoughts about July's games, the deadline for that will be the 15th of July. Go to duckfeed.tv/contact and write in if you have thoughts about Burnout Paradise, which rules, Jack 2, which I haven't played, so can't say that yet, or Cadence of Hyrule, which I'm interested in.
Yeah, which high rules. And this month's games, just a reminder, 7 out of 10 games, Infernax, Pentiment, and Resident Evil 4, the remake, which is next week. That's a premium episode. Patrons at $5 or higher at patreon.com/duckfeed.tv we'll get that exclusive episode, next month's episode on Cadence of Hyrule, and all of our exclusive episodes. You'll also have the joy and wonder of supporting your boys. Just, if you like this show and you like us and you want us to be able to pay rent and mortgage and health insurance and stuff, this is how you make that happen.
Yes.
Because of your support, that's why we can do this full time. It's why we can do things like hire our amazing producer, Gwen, who, we really, really appreciate.
Yeah.
If you cannot patronize us, we understand money is different for everyone. You can rate and review us. You can subscribe on your podcast directory of choice, and tell your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. It's been a long episode, so I don't want to prolong it.
No, yeah, we got to go. What should they do until next time, Cole?
Until next time, you gotta have faith.
Or not.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah. It's
sorry, I was just trying to be pithy with
yeah.
a wham thing, but
Yeah. No, it's a faith. Yeah.
Whatever.
Sometimes
live your life.
Yeah. Live your life. Be good to each other.
Take care of each other.
Have faith in the townspeople.